It's fourth down. Rodgers telling the defense, one more. Fourth and goal, back at the 14. Jets trying to hold on. Tennessee trying to rally. Levis, a dart. It's bubbled and dropped by Boyd. The Jets defense holds up.
Yes, they did. And the Titans offense and special teams are now 0-2 on the season. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios on a Titans Monday. And I got to tell you, it was not pretty. But then again, you all saw the game. You all saw, you all know, we all saw the game. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up?
My dad and I were on the phone about 20 minutes ago, and my dad said, don't be too hard on Will Levis today. And I said...
Good advice from your father. Good fatherly advice.
I said to him, Dad, I think he cost him the game on Sunday. And I'm not talking about his overall play, which definitely cost him the game. I think the stupid play cost him the game on Sunday. As they were driving down the field, as they were up 7-0, at that point, they had a time of possession of 14 minutes and 52 seconds compared to the Jets at 6:22. At that point, they had 79 passing yards. The Jets had 7. I mean, I got to tell you, even though it was only 3 points and they lost by 7, and yes, the punt cost them an extra 3. So if they had the 2 and then they're kicking a field goal to win, as far as the transitive property kind of thing. But just the way the game was going, that inexcusable, unfathomable mistake cost them the game. And that kind of mistake, as we learned last Monday, is bad enough to begin with. But when you do it the second time in as many weeks, Will Levis is telling you who he is, folks. He knows who he is. And I know who he is too. I like Will Levis. I think he works very, very hard. I think Will Levis wants to be a great quarterback. If there was a quota on how many hours you had to put in, if there was a time frame on how hard you had to work, if there was a dedication level requirement, which there is, but it takes more than that, Will Levis would pass the test. Unfortunately, I think we can say Will Levis stinks. He's telling you who he is. He stinks. And part of not understanding how ridiculously stupid decisions can hurt your football team is part of what leads you to stinking. It's not just the physical aspect where he's underthrowing passes. I mean, that touchdown that he threw to Calvin Ridley, that ball should have been intercepted before it should have been caught. That ball, and it was 3 yards short. Ridley had to dive back to the ball, and the safety had to miss it, and it's caught it on the ground. I mean, that was a total fluke. The one good thing he did. So I know Will Levis stinks. And I think the head coach knows it too. And I think you kind of saw that from Brian Callahan on the sideline with the stupid play, with everything else. I think he knows it. Now, he can't say it because the job he was hired to do was to coach up the quarterback. And so he's going to try to coach him up the best he can. But again, I think the coach knows he's not very good. And guess what? I think you guys know it too. I mean, last week, it's only one game, Jared. And remember, it turned in from, oh, yeah, that was bad, boy. I'm worried that we don't have a great quarterback. It went from that to it's only one game, Jared, to it's only one half, Jared do. And now deep down inside, I think you guys know it too. I heard some of the excuse making on the midday show. D. Mace cut it off, nipped it in the bud. Thank you, D. Mace. But I heard some of the excuse making that, well, if they didn't have the block punt. And I know. That's like saying, well, that fumble didn't cost him the game because this could have happened or that. Yeah, I mean, Batman could have flown into the game and could have taken the ball for Garrett Wilson on 2nd and 21 and could have intercepted it for you. But that didn't happen. When somebody tells you who they are, you listen. After the game was over, Will Levis said that he needs to have his brain rewired. He said it, not me. So when he tells you he needs his brain rewired, listen. He's telling you he's not smart enough to play quarterback in the NFL. Again, and before you think that's offensive, before you say, I don't think it's fair to call Will Levis, he's the one who said his brain needs to be defense. Great might be a little bit of a stretch. But even with the Titans having a good defense that held Aaron Rodgers under 200 yards, held Breece Hall under 100 yards, you cannot win with incompetence at the quarterback position in the NFL. Because, as is the case with incompetence, or brain rewiring, as Will Levis wants to call it, that usually doesn't improve. Okay? Like, I understand, hey, that was a rookie mistake. He threw that ball into triple coverage. He shouldn't have done that. I understand that. Well, that was a rookie mistake. He didn't set his feet. In college, he could have done that, but in the NFL, I understand that. Laying the ball on the ground, like bowling the ball to Tajay Spears. When Bill Belichick, this kid, Will Levis, grew up in Massachusetts. He was a Patriot fan. He has talked about it through and through. So you don't think Will Levis was embarrassed that Bill Belichick went on national TV on Pat McAfee last week and said, what's the upside of that play? You make that play, you lose the game. You make that play, you gain 2 yards. You miss that play, you lose the game. You don't think he was that's his coach? I don't even know what year Levis was born. He's 25 years old. It's 2024. Belichick's the coach of the Patriots his entire life. And Belichick's like, yeah, it's dumb. And then he goes out and he rolls it on the ground right to the Jets. And again, when you have bad decision-making at the quarterback position, usually that doesn't improve. We say it all the time. Ian, what's the old saying? Fat guys stay fat, injured guys stay injured, and
dumb guys stay dumb.
Dumb guys stay dumb. You can't coach your way out of that. Will Levis might have gotten good grades in college, and he might be a very smart guy, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's a very smart football player. Because on the field, he can't make good decisions on a consistent basis, period. And if you can't count on your quarterback to make a good decision, you're not going to win in the NFL. One of Levis's best throws of the day was a horrendous decision before halftime on a hospital ball for Tony Pollard. He's lucky Tony Pollard's not laying out at St. Thomas Midtown right now, because he put that ball right there with the safety right. If this were 20 years ago and you throw that ball, poor Tony Pollard's family because of throwing that football. You know not to do that. A good quarterback would have been ashamed of what he did to his receiver on that play. And that was one of his best decisions of the day. It's not going to change. I said this last year when Levis threw an interception at home against the Texans in the Oiler uniforms, and everybody said, next year the game will slow down and he'll make the right decision there. And I said, we hope. We hope. It's year 2. Game 1 was a giant red flag, and it was a giant red flag that a lot of you didn't want to accept. A lot of you didn't want to see it and say, hey, first game of year 2. This isn't year 1. He's not a rookie, folks. He's 25 years old. He's in his second year, and a lot of you didn't want to accept it. You wanted to say it was a boneheaded decision. He'll never do it again. He did it 5 minutes later. Aaron Rodgers yesterday was far from Aaron Rodgers. But ask yourself this. How many critical mistakes did Aaron make yesterday? The answer is 0. In the game, a critical mistake from Levis and a critical mistake on special teams, and now the margin is teeny, 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 tiny. Floyd used to talk about how Mariota couldn't get away with throwing 2 interceptions. Tom Brady could because Tom Brady can make up for it. But like Mariota back then, Levis can't make up for it. And right now, he's turning the football over 2.5 times a game. You can't win with that. And as far as the offense is concerned, and I know the offensive line's having their struggles, and I mean, who knows how much meat is left on the bone as far as what's out there that he's not taking. You know, the throw he didn't throw to Ridley on 1st and goal. How many of those plays are there where it's like, you know, even though that wasn't a bad decision by Levis and that was an incomplete pass, if Levis had actually made a better decision, it would have been, and I bet there's a lot of meat on the bone. Now, I'm not saying change a quarterback, and I'm not saying that Levis has no future in the NFL. Because as I said to my dad right before the death pick against Chicago, I think he's a backup. He could be a backup in the NFL. Maybe a low-end starter. Team wants to, you know, draft a young guy, but they don't know if they're going to be able to pick him at 8, so they sign Will Levis, and Levis is our starter, and then they pick the guy, and it's like, well, actually, he's our starter. Maybe he can be that. But when every time he does something good, it's basically pure luck, like the touchdown against Chicago and the touchdown to Ridley, and every time he does something bad, it's almost pure stupidity, you're not going to win a lot of games in the NFL. And maybe Levis will change, but how often do players change in the NFL? You know, normally when a guy gets drafted, you notice pretty quickly, like, hey, that Cortland Finnegan, I know he was a 7th-round pick. He's pretty good. You usually see those things. Guys get better, I'll agree. But you usually see that right away. Levis did show us that in his first game and his second game that he's got talent. But again, talent has to meet brains. And right now they don't have it. So it's 0-2, and it's not the end of the world. But if you're a Titan fan and you're thinking that this season or this team is more than what you've seen through 2 games, you're kidding yourselves. Don't do that. The Titans are an okay team with a bad quarterback and bad decision-making, and okay teams with bad decision-makers at quarterback don't win. Just ask the New York Jets and say, hey, what was it like last year when you guys had the 3rd-ranked defense and Zach Wilson is your quarterback? Because they know. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. And everybody on TV saw Brian Callahan's reaction to the latest Levis mistake. But I do wonder kind of, so there's an and to that. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025 on a Titans Monday, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
is the 22nd play of the half for Tennessee. The Jets have run 9 plays. That's it. Spears in there. 3rd and goal. Levis looking. Levis tripped and tried to shovel it. That ball is free, and the Jets have it. We saw last week Levis trying to do too much, and it just happened again. Williams jumps on top of it.
And the reason it's the issue, backwards pass, not flipping it forward. If he flips it forward, it's an incomplete pass. Instead, he flips it backwards. It's a lateral and a free ball and turns it over.
And playing to the scouting report.
Playing to the scouting report, Will Levis, Charles, is just going to blow the game because that's what Will Levis does. Finish that there for Ian Eagle. So we all saw Brian Callahan's reaction to that. I believe my reaction in section 214 yesterday was the exact same as Brian Callahan's. And let me just say this. Brian Callahan can curse at Will Levis all he wants. I did laugh out loud today when I was listening to the press conference and John Glennon asked a question about, now that you're head coach, do you have to worry that there are more cameras on you for when you do that? And he was like, yeah, I guess I do. And then Paul was like, well, why do you have to worry about that? And Brian Callahan should have been mad. But Brian Callahan can curse at Will Levis all he wants on another disastrous turnover. But here's the question I have for Brian Callahan. And this is an open-ended question. This is not rhetorical. This is not a, I'm challenging you to bench the quarterback. I'm not doing that. What are you going to do about it? What do you, I'm serious. When you look at this guy in his face and you say, hey, our defense is playing great. I know we allowed a pump block for a touchdown, but we're about to beat the Chicago Bears. Whatever you do, don't do anything stupid. And he says, yes, sir, coach. And he goes out there and does the single stupidest thing imaginable. And then you convince yourself that after you sat down with him, because he explained everything perfectly, according to Callahan, that after you sat down with him and he realized the error in his way, and you spend a whole week having the same conversation you had on the sideline last week, and hey, whatever you do, don't do something stupid. And he says, yes, sir. And then he goes out and he does it again. What do you do? Again, you can yell at him and you can curse at him and you can all of these things. But what are you doing about it? Because clearly you telling him, hey, don't do this is not working. And apparently Brian Callahan has changed the way he's told Will Levis not to do this. Here's what he said yesterday about his reaction to the Levis mistake.
Back to that Levis mistake. It's the second week in a row, something egregious like that. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that? What do you say to him? How do you go about trying to curb that from happening? Because it's back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I think my tone and demeanor to him changed dramatically in that moment. But yeah, we can't have it. He's got to protect our team better. He's got to protect the ball better. And it's inexcusable to do those types of things.
It's really not inexcusable because then what's going to happen is just like last week, everyone's going to make excuses for him. Well, he'll learn this week. I'm sure he will. Just like he was supposed to learn last week. There's nothing. I mean, again, what do you do? Do you bench him? I hate to say this because you know the old saying, either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. Either you are coaching these mistakes, and now that it's 2 weeks in a row, you're either allowing it to happen. And I don't think they need to bench the quarterback, but I do think that. I was thinking about this at halftime. And I do wonder what the conversation was like between Levis and Callahan. Because at halftime, I don't think it's as rah-rah as everybody makes it out to be. I think that's more after the game, before the game, where the coach gets in there right away and says, great job, man. We put it all out on the line for 60 minutes, and you worked together, and you found a way. Let's go. Teammates on 3. We see those. That's when the coach talks to you. Halftime, I think it's kind of more, you go over here and talk over there. You go get an IV over there. You go over here, like that kind of thing. And I got to believe that Brian Callahan had to have had a frank discussion with Will Levis at halftime. And I do wonder what that discussion was. Because does Brian Callahan sit there with Will Levis? And again, this is a very manageable game at this point at halftime, a game you think you still have a chance to win. Do you sit there and say, hey, one more One more and you're out. Because if you don't say that, then there's no punishment for what Levis is doing, other than the fact that eventually next year you'll replace him. So I keep wondering, what is Brian Callahan going to do? He said today when he was asked about it, he says he's going to coach him. That's what he's going to do. Just keep coaching him. And as I wrote in my notes before Callahan said that today, I wrote, I feel like the answer is, as though, what are you going to do? I wrote, I feel like the answer is nothing. Like it's going to be same old, same old. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. What can you do? In fact, the next play, he let Levis air the ball out to Burks. And Burks either couldn't hold on to the ball or the ball was underthrown, or I don't know. I've heard warring arguments today between PK and D Mace and TD and Callahan, and everybody's got their opinion on that ball that got intercepted. And all I'm thinking is we just keep giving opportunities to Levis and Burks. They should be shocked it got, like, you shouldn't be shocked it got screwed up. It's Levis and Burks. What'd you think was going to happen? So, I mean, between that and Levis made another, there was another one that Levis, where he turned backwards and he threw it. Ian, I don't know if you saw this, but with about 8 minutes to go in the game on like a third down or something, Levis was kind of forced around in the pocket and he turns over and he turns his body sideways and he throws it to Pollard, who actually catches it this time and gains like 1 yard. And the problem with that, again, is that could have been just as equally a disastrous play if Pollard didn't catch the ball. Instead, he caught it and he gained 1 yard. So, I mean, I don't – it was 8 minutes to go in a 17-all game. And so it didn't blow up in their faces when he did that. So everyone's like, well, that doesn't count. But I'm like, yes, sir, it does. It shows you that he's not learning. He's making the same mistakes. So the coach can be as mad as he wants. And I get it. He's mad. I'm mad. You're mad. But what is he going to do about it? And the answer is nothing. Like, that's the answer. And I don't know how that makes you feel. Again, he can say coach him up when asked. So what are you going to do about that? We're going to coach him up. But what that is code word for nothing. And look, I know I quote the old man a lot, and I get it, but I was actually talking to somebody about this yesterday. The old man used to say there are only two things players recognize. Only two things. Money and playing time. Well, you're not going to take his money away because you can't. And again, I'm not calling for the quarterback to be benched either, but that's really the only card Brian Callahan has to play. So the question is, what do you do? Do you do nothing or do you do something? And like I said, this isn't a rhetorical question. This isn't a question that I have the answer to. I'm not telling Brian Callahan what to do. I'm just telling you that's the reality of it. When you sit there and you tell that quarterback last week against Chicago, whatever you do not screw up. And he says, yes, coach. And then he does it. And then you spend the whole week and you say, whatever you do not screw up. And he says, yes, coach. And then he goes out there and he does it. And again, we're not talking about, and Callahan was very quick to point this out, like, I'm never going to be upset at Will for throwing an interception, or I'm never going to be upset at Will for, it's the stupid stuff. We got it. We understand. We understand the difference between a mistake in a game that happens when a guy's trying to make a play and pure incompetence. But again, when you say to the quarterback, don't do that, and the quarterback goes out there and does it, the only option you really have is to bench him or to do nothing. And so that's the choice. And I don't disagree with the decision to do nothing. I'm just telling you that's where they are now. Because they know they can't coach this out of you. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. There was one play yesterday that I do want to get to before we get to your phones on all of this, because a lot of people do want to weigh in, and we will get to your phones, I promise you. But there was one play yesterday that before I get to your phones, while I'm just dogging Levis today, we got to get to. And we'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
And it's a very brief 3-and-out for Tennessee. Another punt for Stonehouse. His third of the day, a long of 63.
And it's blocked. Out of bounds. Back-to-back weeks, the Titans have had a punt blocked. Irvin Charles is a menace on special teams.
And last week it was Jack Gibbons who got run over and the ball was blocked. It wasn't a structural breakdown. It was just a play where he wasn't made in Chicago. Let's see what happens here. The gates opened on this one. To the right side of the line, you saw a real gap that Irvin Charles hurdled through, coming from right in here. See right there? He goes right inside number 36, Julius Chestnut. And the gates widened, and Irvin Charles took full advantage. He's playing really well on special teams today for the Jets.
That's inexcusable for us. We can't have that. And that's 2 games in a row to get a punt blocked. I don't know that I've been around a blocked punt in 6 years. So to have it happen back to back is really frustrating. But that's on all of us to fix that. That's on me to fix that. That's on Colt, and that's on everybody else to make sure we're doing our jobs on special teams, because as of now, it hasn't been good enough all the way around.
That was unacceptable, Brian Callahan said. He said, in fact, the word he used right there was inexcusable. And do you want to know what he did today? Ian, did you hear what he did today?
No, I don't think so.
He excused Julius Chestnut.
Oh,
Paul
okay.
asked the question about, do you think Chestnut's effort could have been a little bit better on trying to block that guy from blocking the punt? And he said, well, Julius Chestnut was trying to go down the field and cover as opposed to block the guy. The Jets rushed 4 and the Titans blocked, and they still blocked the punt, which is, I mean, total ineptness. And I want to take these words. We have to understand what these words mean. When you say inexcusable, and then you make an excuse saying Chestnut was trying to run down there. By the way, did you know that it's illegal to do that? If you're on the line, you can't run down to go cover a kick until the ball is kicked. So what he's saying is not even legal, I believe, because I remember Craig Aukerman's special teams got a penalty on it, and I bitched and moaned about that. But when you say unacceptable and inexcusable, and then you do nothing about it, well, is it really unacceptable, or are you accepting it? Is it really inexcusable, or are you excusing it? And I'll say this. I sent this in a tweet last night, during the game yesterday. Mike Mularkey fired Bobby April as special teams coach 4 games into his tenure as head coach of the Titans. Now, I know Mike Mularkey was only the head coach for 2 years. It was a short period of time, but Mike Mularkey didn't know that when he fired Bobby April 4 games into his special teams coaching tenure. And again, they lost a game at Houston. Brett Kern hit a low line drive of a punt, and Will Fuller took it back for a touchdown. And the next day, I was in services at the temple on Rosh Hashanah, and somebody turned to me and they said, oh, hey, look, they showed me their phone, which probably shouldn't have been doing, but they showed me their phone and said, Bobby April got fired. I'm not saying fire the special teams coach, but I mean, again, if you don't make any changes, if Chestnut's still out there and Gibbons is still out there and Anderson's still coaching them, and then you are excusing it. Then you are accepting it. And as much as we're banging on Will Levis today, and again, I think the theme is Levis because this is, again, punt block. I'll fire everybody over there, and not even feel bad about it. Like, if they cut Jack Gibbons last week, I would not have felt bad about it. If they cut Julius Chestnut today, I will not feel bad about it. You cannot be some undrafted free agent Scarbini, which both guys are. They're not starters. We pray to God they never have to get on the field, and allow the team to lose. You can't do that. If we're sitting there going over the roster saying who should make the 52nd and 53rd spots, and it's like, well, if we play this guy, he's going to lose the game for us, you would cut him. But if you don't do those things, then you are accepting it. And this is, again, I mean, the honeymoon's over now for Brian Callahan. The positive vibes, the toxic positivity, everybody's great. They have turned that facility into an episode of Barney. Like, everybody's great. Everybody, he was talking today. I love Will. I'm going to coach him hard, but I love him. And I enough with the bull crap. If you don't make changes, then if you keep throwing the ball to Burks, then you're going to keep getting the results. And what do? Burke screws up, and they come over and they hug him, and they say it'll be okay. So you can tell me it's inexcusable and unacceptable all you want. If you don't know anything about it, then I mean, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. Adam in Portland's been waiting since pretty much the very beginning of the show. He's going to kick us off today. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Adam.
Well, to start, man, I think Traylon Burks is a worse wide receiver than Will Levis is quarterback. Honestly, I think Nick Westbrook-Akine probably pulled that ball in. Maybe he doesn't, but I would rather have seen him out there doing it. Not why I called you. Will Levis, man, the word is reckless, and I don't hear a lot of people saying it. He's reckless. Like it would be like giving like an underage driver your car keys and saying, "Hey, drive me around." Like that's what he's doing with our franchise. He's completely reckless. He did it last week. He did it again this week. I keep hearing people, can we stop making the Brett Favre comparison? I hear it every single show, and I'm sick of hearing it. He's not Peyton Manning. He's not Brett Favre. We get it. They sucked their first year. He's in his second year, and I can't think, and I challenge you to do this, Jared, you and Ian, y'all are both the book of knowledge. I challenge you to think back in the last 25 years. Has there been a quarterback do what he's done in the last two games, like back-to-back, shovel pass, lose games, or something as ridiculous as he's done? Because I'm thinking – and I follow this crap like y'all do. I can't think of anybody that's ever done anything even close to it.
Well, there's not a stat that says moronic play. So it's not like we can take the moronic plays and say, okay, Brandon Whedon did this in 2014. Like, we can't say that. But, I mean, again, I don't know if reckless is the right word. Like, I really think the right word is incompetent. And TD last week was like, man, I really hate using that word. And I'm like, I get it. But that's what it is. Again, reckless, like if you're driving, let's say you're trying to get somewhere on the interstate, so you're going to go 110 miles an hour, which you shouldn't do, and that's reckless. And in fact, the charge, if you get caught with that, is reckless driving. But there's at least a reason for why you're doing what you're doing. If you're driving 110 miles an hour, it's because you're trying to get somewhere in a fast period of time. What was he trying to do rolling the ball to Tajay Spears on the ground? Like, again, go back to Belichick for the Chicago play when he's like, yeah, if you complete the ball, you gain 2 yards and you punt anyways. If you don't, you lose the game. That's not reckless. That's like not having a fundamental understanding of how this works. Again, he said he needs to rewire his brain. I have never heard a player say that after a game. That tells you it don't work out there on the field. Well, Levis can come back to the sideline and draw up the whole playbook for us. Great. But none of that matters if when the play clock's going down, if his brain clicks off the same way that the coach to quarterback communication clicks off. There's nothing you can do about it. Tony is up next here on a Titans Monday. Tony, thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Tony.
Yes. Henry Ford said one time, and I quote, he said, thinking is the hardest job there is. That's the reason why so few people engage in it. Will Levis, something in his brain just does not work because he keeps doing the same thing over and over. If you look at that game yesterday, he breaks out of the pocket and he runs. Instead of him sliding, he tries to bulldoze over somebody. And one of those times he got up, it looked like he was a little bit dazed. And I'd be doggone when he did it again and had plenty of time to slide. That just lets me know that something in that young man's brain just done turned off.
He told you that.
It don't work.
You're like, Tony, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate your call. Thank you. He told you that. Like, he said it. He said, my brain needs to be rewired. That is, again, and I appreciate the honesty because it is, again, I don't know why this is that when he goes out onto the field, he all of a sudden, I don't, it's like one of these comic book characters. It's like a different person because he comes back and he goes up to the podium and he, says, I can't do that. And we can't turn the football over and we can't lose. And I can't have this and I can't have that. And he's sitting there talking about how, well, I need to get my brain rewired, which is a stunning revelation of self-evaluation. I mean, at least he can look in the mirror, but it's not like he's going to go out there and he's not going to actually rewire his brain. He's 25. Like, that's the problem here. I mean, and again, I don't know what to do. And by the way, let me say this. Brian Callahan yesterday made some comment about, Levis, because he barrel rolled over after a nice little run that he had. And then he got up and first down because, he's got to do that. And so he barrel rolled and Callahan was like, he did slide. I'm like, he did that time. But in the fourth quarter, after the big run he had, the next play, he tried to run it again because Levis is the kind of guy who, if I get away with it one time, I'm doing it again. He tried to run, and he got clocked, like in the back. I mean, it hurt me watching that. So, I mean, I guess he learned on that one play where the entire stadium, including me, I was like, slide, slide, slide. And he barrel rolls because he can't actually slide. I guess Levis never played baseball before, but he can't slide. So then Brian Callahan wants to take a victory lap on that as his quarterback later in the game. A very nice run, like a very tough run. McDonald, was going for sack number 8, and he couldn't get a hold of him. And Levis runs up out there and gives you a chance to win the game with that play. He legitimately gave you a shot. And then he tries to run it on the next play, and he takes a helmet to the back. 615-737-1025. More your phone, 615-737-1025. Plus, I know this is going to seem really unfair to highlight the bad and not recognize the good. Like, I got to, but there was one play he made yesterday, a good play, that I'm not even sure was really good. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063. The game. Be sure to join me, Derek, and Chris live out at, I believe we are at JBJ's. That's right. We will be live at JBJ's, John Bon Jovi's, this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 for the award-winning pregame show. Hey, here's the deal, by the way, in the pregame show. They open up JBJ's early. They have JBJ's and they have Hank Williams. They open up JBJ's early because they want the Titan fans to come to JBJ's. And it was about 50-50 Titans-Jets yesterday. They opened the other one later because they're okay with Packer fans going there. So if you're a Titan fan, come on out, 9:30. We don't want to be surrounded by Packer fans. And Ian asked me how the Jet fans were on Sunday. It was fine. It was like any typical regular season Titans game where there's a lot of other fans. But next week, it's going to be loaded.
There's going to be some Packers fans now.
Get up early and come to JBJ's and join us right here for the award-winning pregame show. The award-winning pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon.
Shotgun, Levis, 2nd and 9. Levis looking for the big one.
And a sliding attempt. Somehow Ridley was there for the touchdown. Will Levis throwing to Calvin Ridley. 40 yards. Ridley tracking it, and this is a scintillating grab.
And he does it against the first-team All-Pro corner, Sauce Gardner. Chuck Clark coming over from the safety spot. Looks like he has a shot at the football. But how about the concentration? The absolute concentration of Ridley. Remember the one that went through his hands? Looked like he should have caught that one. He atoned for it on that play and put 6 on the board for Tennessee.
Okay. So that was the good play from Levis yesterday. It really got the Titans back in the game. And I must have watched that play 800 times. And by the way, in the stadium, maybe because like Ridley, when he was sliding, was facing where I sit, but like I could see Ridley catch the ball. Ian Eagle, who's on the other side calling the game, Ian Eagle had no idea.
Could not tell from the TV copy.
You can tell right there. Ian Eagle has no idea that Ridley has the ball. And he was afraid to get excited and be like, and it's caught by Ridley for a touchdown, because he did that on the Burks interception earlier in the game. And so if he's like sliding attempt, and oh my, Calvin Ridley caught the ball. And I'm going to sound like a hater for what I'm about to say, but again, truth hurts sometimes. Levis doesn't get credit for the bomb to Ridley because that was complete and total luck. And we talk about 50-50 balls. That was like a 25% ball. That was 75% Jets, 25% Titans, and somehow the safety for the Jets missed it. And Ridley, I was laying down on the ground, caught it with one hand. And it was the second week in a row Levis has thrown a touchdown where when you look at it, it's like, that ball probably should have been intercepted, including the Chig touchdown last week at Chicago, in which Chig made the greatest play he's ever made in his entire career, probably the greatest play he'll ever make in his career. And what's concerning about that is that it's like, okay, when Levis does something good, it's almost like it's luck, right? Like Will McDonald didn't bring him down for the sack, and then he goes and runs up the middle and gains 20 yards. But when he does something bad, it's either a mistake on his end or it is incompetence. Now, Levis did have a good throw down the field to Ridley, and Ridley didn't catch it, so at least there's that. I'll give him that. But even with the miracle touchdown, because Brian Callahan said today that he thought Levis played much better this week, sans the stupid play, which you can't take that out, but I understand the idea of saying, hey, let's give it another chance. But even with the miracle touchdown, Levis still had a terrible game. So what does that tell you? 615-737-1025 is our phone number on the program. Let's go to Larry, who's up next here on the show. Larry, thank you for waiting. Larry, go ahead.
What's up, fellas? First of all, Burks, I don't know why he's even on the team, but anyway, and y'all have been talking about Jake Locker 2.0. I mean, Will Levis. But listen, what I want to know, next time he talks to the media, why don't you guys please ask him, hey, if you decide to yank him, will you have the support from Miss Amy? That's all I really want to know.
You just want him to have to answer that, right?
Yeah, yes, I do, because I've never saw a coach throw his quarterback under the bus this bad, this early. I've never.
Now, he said, Larry, and I appreciate your call. I mean, he said yesterday that he still has full confidence in Levis. And I don't want to speak for another man because he may say something that it's not, quite frankly, it's not a bad question. I mean, just to be completely honest, it's not as stupid maybe as it sounds to be like, hey, media, say that. It's really not a bad question. A lot of times people want to go to the local press and say, why don't y'all ask the hard questions? And the local press gets super upset about it. I remember when Butch Jones was on the hot seat, and the media that covers Tennessee for the most part are fans, but they were talking, kind of like, Coach, what do you think? And Butch, I'm like, you softies. So I understand that. That is not a bad question. It's not. I mean, I think he'll probably say, hey, Amy, allows us to make the decisions and where we do this as a group or, something like that. I don't know. And I don't know if he would have the blessing of Amy to be able to pull the plug. It's a pretty good question. So I am not going to complain about it. Lance is up next on our program. Lance, thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. Lance, go ahead.
I just don't understand. There is a way to control it a little bit. You take him out of the game when he does it. Every time he does it, you take him out and tell him to go sit over there and hope we don't need him in case the other guy gets hurt. That's the only way you can. And it's not fair to the other players. I mean, it's kind of like when they were playing the Bears, it looked like Jeffrey Simmons walked by him on the sideline and whispered something in his ear. And ain't no telling what that was. But the other people are trying to make their livelihood off of a stupid player. I'd take him out of the game, tell him to go sit over there with his dunce hat, think about what he's done. And then,
so you want to treat a 25-year-old like a 6-year-old?
Yeah, well, if you got a 6-year-old mentality, yeah, you need to treat him like a 6-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, Lance, thank you for the call. I'm not sure that does you any good. Like, I'm not sure that, go to your room and think about what you did. I don't know if that does any good. And by the way, on the Jeffrey Simmons front, I'm just going to say this. Jeffrey Simmons needs to worry about Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons, Ian, do you know how many QB hits Jeffrey Simmons has through 2 games?
Through 2 games, QB hits 1.
0. I guess they don't count it when you hit the QB in the head, which he did yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
You want to guess how many sacks Jeffrey Simmons
has
has through 2? 0. You want to know how many tackles for loss Jeffrey Simmons has?
1.
1. You got that one right. Ding, 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 ding. By the way, Ernest Jones, who's been on the team for 2 weeks and was given for free by the Rams, had 3 tackle for losses yesterday. So before we do, Jeffrey Simmons is going to be upset. Let's let Jeffrey Simmons worry about Jeffrey Simmons. Because for $23 million a year, I'd like you to hit the quarterback legally, if you could. Is it too much to ask? Or am I just, again, being a hater? One texter says, absolutely 0 excuses for Levis, but in your opinion, how much of this is the pass blocking as well as Hopkins being out a factor? It seems like he's either getting hit or launching a ball into double coverage after locking in on Calvin Ridley. I don't know, man. I don't think the offensive line's that big of a problem. And you know me, I bitch about the offensive line. You know it. I know it. There's nobody. I am like this caller by the name of Pee Wee that used to call Nick Saban's coaches show every week to complain about the offensive line. It would be like, Pee Wee is up next on our program. Go ahead, Pee Wee. Coach Saban, what are we going to do about the line? Well, Pee Wee, we got to win at the point of attack. We're going to have to strike with our hands. We're going to have to, every week, this guy called a $10 million a year coach to complain about the offensive line. I am like Pee Wee. The offensive line's bad. But I don't think the offensive line, and I know the next gen stats say different, I don't think this is Daly, Dillard, and Duncan level bad. And I don't think it's pressure. I mean, yeah, it's pressure, but like when Chicago blitzes on 3rd and 6, you have to be ready for that. The ball has to come out. So I'm not giving a pass to the offensive line. We'll rip on them later. But it is bad. I mean, regardless of the line, it's all bad. 615-737-1025. We're back to your phones. But there is a question that has to be had about the Titans that I do want to get to here. But there's also something that I said this weeks ago. And I was a bad guy. And I was right. And I do want to touch on this because I think it's very, very important that we discuss this because it concerns me about Brian Callahan. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios on a Titans Monday. The Titans are 0-2, and they're 0-2 in large part because their quarterback can't make a solid decision, which is very, very disheartening. So you can tell the frustration that Brian Callahan had on Sunday, yesterday, after Will Levis rolled the ball on the ground, giving a whole new definition to Bowling Green. Rolling the ball right there on that green grass, right to Tajay Spears. Again, this second stupid play in as many weeks that has helped cost the Titans the game. And I'm a little surprised at Brian Callahan's reaction to how shocked he is by what happened last week when he said, you know, you never know until the bullets start flying in live time, but I was surprised that Levis did all this stupid stuff against the Bears. And then again this week when he talked about how, you know, well, we got to keep coaching him, but obviously my tone and demeanor changed this week because we had the same issue last week. But other than that, the game was good. And I know Brian Callahan didn't scout Will Levis. And get ready, because if things continue the way they're trending, the NFL is all about survival. Brian Callahan's a good man. There are some coaches that will not throw other people under the bus. There are some coaches that will, you know, that stand for what's right. Mike Mularkey. You may not have liked Mike Mularkey, but Mike Mularkey stood for what was right. If you remember when Ken Whisenhunt got fired and they made him the interim coach at the press conference, so I mean, Mike was very sure not to throw Whisenhunt under the bus, and then went and basically undid everything that he did as interim coach that he could. You know, he wouldn't give up his coaches because he believed that, you know, hey, that's my job as coach, is to coach him, and if you want to fire me, you got to fire me. But again, most guys aren't as honorable as Mike Mularkey because the NFL is all about survival. And it will become very soon enough, if things continue in this direction, the fact that Brian Callahan didn't draft Will Levis. In fact, Brian Callahan didn't sign or didn't scout Will Levis. All he did was sign up to coach him. And he didn't know him when he signed up to coach him. He just had seen what he had seen on the film. And the film, as they will tell you when it comes to drafting players, doesn't tell you what's up here in the head or what's right here in the heart. It does feel like Levis has what it takes right here in the heart. Unfortunately, up here in the head, that's a little bit of an issue. But I find it really hard to believe that Brian Callahan is this shocked. And I'm going to tell you why. Because during training camp, I complained a lot about what I was seeing. Now, at training camp, you couldn't go to practice. I mean, maybe you're one of the few people that had, you know, season ticket access or a buddy on the team, or there could be somebody in there that's thinking, well, I got to go one day and I watched them practice. But I'm talking about every single day. You, the fans, could not go to practice. I could. And how many days during training camp was I concerned about the offensive line, Skoronski, PT? How many days was I concerned about Levis? But Jared, it's only practice. Or you said that what I saw, what you didn't see, didn't happen. But what really got me were the two Seattle practices. 2 days against the Seahawks. And they did nothing. They did nothing on offense for 2 days. One play, they ran the ball, and Tony Pollard picked up a bunch of yards, and everyone said, well, what about that first play? They ran the ball to Tony Pollard. Oh, okay. One run, yay. But again, they scrimmaged with the Seahawks, and they didn't move the ball at all. They got in a 2-minute drill with the Seahawks. Will Levis threw one ball, and it got intercepted. They were practicing on the first day. Levis throws the ball down the field for Traylon Burks, and Traylon Burks pulls up with a cramp, and the ball's incomplete. It's like, up, Burks again. It's all the same stuff. But it's like Brian Callahan just conveniently dismissed it, just like a lot of you conveniently dismissed it at that point in time. And Brian Callahan's still sitting up there today saying that, oh, no. Even though his quarterback has cost him 2 games to start his coaching career, he has not lost any faith in the coach, or excuse me, in the quarterback. Here's what he said. Ian, if you got it. Mm. Mm. Again, he's saying right there, he's like, hey, no, I still trust Will. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. I still trust him. Based off of what? Like, again, I went to the Seahawks practices. I saw the offense not move the ball. One of the topics we had was, if this were a game, and again, you guys didn't see the Seahawk practices. I saw the Seahawk practices. And I said, if this were a game, you guys would be saying, Will Levis sucks. That would be what you would say if you had seen the Seattle practices. And I asked Brian Callahan after the Seattle practice, after Levis threw one pass in a 2-minute drill and it got picked, and they ran the ball to Jamal Adams, who played 2 snaps yesterday. Congratulations to him. But I asked him about, he's like, oh, no, we got plenty of time. So don't act like this is a surprise. I mean, again, I didn't go out to OTAs for a session this year, and I'm reading Jim Wyatt's breakdown after the OTA is over, which Jim then later went back and edited, which, again, tells you all you need to know about this organization. It's not Jim's fault, but it's the organization. When Chris Sanders is on the show, this must have been in May of this year, and it's OTAs, and Chris Sanders is on. I'm reading through Jim Wyatt's thing, and in there was a Will Levis pass for Josh Wiley landed in the lake. And Chris Sanders, who practiced on that field, was sitting there saying, the lake? And we laughed and laughed because I've never seen a ball go into the lake. And so we talked about that because it's so ridiculous. We talked about it. The Titans said, no, it bounced into the lake. Jim White had to go back and edit his story and say it bounced in the lake because, God forbid, we tell the truth around here. You know, we got to make sure that we get this caveat in there so it doesn't look bad. And again, the point I'm making is this was all evident. The coach is acting like Levis's moronic crap and his inability to win the game for you. He's acting like, I mean, I'm stunned by. I've never seen any of this. I mean, I've never seen any. Really? Because I remember at training camp, you go into the podium saying, well, you know, that Seattle defense, they're really good. Yeah. How many points they give up to Jacoby Brissett yesterday? 20? Well, you know, Denard's defense, they're really, really good. Didn't stop Aaron Rodgers when it mattered. So, I mean, again, Brian Callahan, when it comes time, he'll distance himself from Will Levis. He didn't draft Will Levis. He didn't scout Will Levis. He didn't any of this. But again, Seahawk practices, they were terrible. And it was like, no, it'll be okay. And now it's like, I know, I didn't see any of this coming. How did you not? We talked about it every day. How did you not see PT? Who, again, according to Next Gen Stats, PT gave up 13 pressures yesterday. I do not believe that number. Paul says Blake Bedingfield, whose opinion on this, that counts. Former Titan scout. He's the reason they drafted Derrick Henry. Blake Bedingfield counted 9. 9's still terrible, by the way. But 13 is at all. I mean, that's like once every 2 snaps. But again, how many times do we complain about PT and say, teacher, I don't think this is going to work? No, Jared. No, Jared. This is, I'm telling you. So I don't want to hear from the coach when he's like shocked that this has happened. I don't want to hear from the coach about it because the coach just chose to either ignore it or he's lying. And then maybe he's lying. I don't know. But it just, I mean, don't act like we didn't warn you about all of this with Levis and the inability for the offense and Levis and Ridley. Remember, You know, he was like, I remember when they made comments about Jamar Chase and them not being to connect. Ha, ha, ha. Well, you're 2 games in. You've tried it 5 times. You hit it once, and it was a miraculous play. Maybe you should be a little concerned. Levis has had 2 2-minute drills in the 2 games. Remember, I was worried because against Seattle, in the 2-minute drill, they threw 1 pass, and I'm like, okay, run them back out there. Like, I get it. Devin Witherspoon intercepted the ball, but, like, let's go. We need the practice. They need the practice. Get them out there. And instead, it was like, nope, that's 2-minute drill. Everybody, goodbye. Yeah, have a good one. It was hot outside. So I don't want to hear the coach act like he's shocked with this or shocked that PT stinks. Because Corey Curtis said on the preseason broadcast, and again, Corey said it, and my guess is they told him, and he's relaying the message, but he was like, they feel good about the right side of the line. Bob, back to you. And I was like, oh, God, feel good about it? But everybody wanted to believe it. Oh, no, Jared, the ball bounced in the lake. It's not a big deal, other than the fact that I've never seen that before. Never. And I've seen some bad stuff from Mariota. I've never seen that before. So don't act like this is all of a sudden a shock. All right, 615-737-1025. Got a little worked up there, meant to take some phones. So we will do that next. 615-737-1025 here on the program. Stillman and Company on a Titans Monday. Let's talk about Window Nation. This will get me worked up in a good way because I love telling you about Window Nation. I really do. I love telling you guys about Window Nation. Did you know that most of your home's cold AC this summer leaked out through your old windows? Yeah, that's a lot of wasted money because I know what my HVAC bill looks like, my electricity bill when it's the summer months. Yeah, that's a lot of wasted money. And with the nice weather, September, it's a great time to replace them with energy efficient ones that save you money on heat during the winter. So call Window Nation today. Again, it's the company I trust. When it comes to this stuff, there are tons of companies out there that want to replace your windows and do different. Window Nation came to my home and they told me more importantly that I didn't need their services more so than just trying to sell me their services, which I do appreciate about Window Nation. It's why I trust them enough to tell you about how much I trust Window Nation. Right now, buy 2 windows, you'll get 2 windows free. Again, buy 2, you'll get 2 free. There's no limit on how much you could save. Plus, Window Nation's windows come with a lifetime warranty and 0 down, no payments, no interest for 24 months. Again, 0 down, no interest, no payments for 24 months. So schedule an in-home estimate today by calling 866-90NATION or going to windownation.com. That's 866-90NATION, windownation.com.
It's happening in a great city of Nashville. Tone has a question for you.
Yeah, Shefty, there was a photo of Will Levis floating around the internet yesterday. Yep, that's it right there. I thought it was AI. Turns out that you go back and you watch the game. That was a real play by Will Levis where he tried to do the same that he does every single week. Is there any chance that they make a quarterback change in Tennessee based on Will Levis just not giving a shit about the football?
I don't think this early in the season. I think that Will Levis is the guy that they're going to continue. That is the play. That is the photo. It's a great photo, not AI.
Great photo.
Great play.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph is his backup, and Mason Rudolph played pretty well last year for the Steelers when he came on in relief at the end of the season. And I would think that obviously if he struggles at a certain point, they can make that decision later on. I don't see them doing that right now. I think that Will Levis has shown them enough. They've invested enough. I think they're going to continue to ride with Will Levis right now. I think those quarterback questions there are a little bit ways off right now. That's my sense.
Adam Schefter says the quarterback issues, the benching the quarterback, that's a little ways off. What's the point? What's the point? Mason Rudolph. Woo! 7 wins. Woo! All right, phones as promised. 615-737-1025. And our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Titans in Truth, Chris, is up next on our program. Chris, thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
What's going on, my friend? First off, before I get started, since my wife knows I listen to your show all the time, she calls you her sports cousin in Christ, by the way. So she's showing love
sister.
To you as well. Yes, definitely. I would definitely do that. But you know how Stephen A. calls the Cowboys an accident waiting to happen? From now on, I deem Will Levis the mistake that's waiting to happen because we now know. That's all. I'm going to be watching the game now, waiting for Will Levis to make that mistake. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when he's going to make that mistake. And it's just, I hate that I have to feel like that, but now it's really becoming obvious when that happens. When it happened in Chicago, it's a coincidence. It's a one-off. This time it happened again, you lose the exact same way. It's not a coincidence anymore. It's basically, this is who he is. And you wasted that defense again. And that catch by Ridley, that was Ridley making an outstanding catch because I honestly thought that one was picked off too. I thought that was picked off.
I mean, I watched the replay at the stadium. I mean, I saw it when it happened in live time, and because Ridley was facing me, I could see him bring in the ball. And Chris, great call. Thank you. And tell your wife I said thank you as well. But I saw Ridley bring the ball in, and so I saw it, and it wasn't like, did he catch it? Did he not catch it? I mean, like I saw the play. But when they showed the replay, and I saw how close the Jets player was to intercepting the pass, I said to myself, if that Jets player is there 1 inch earlier. I mean, honestly, he might have just not been like looking for the ball or whatever it may be. If that happens and that ball gets picked, and again, I know it didn't happen, so we have to acknowledge that. I don't want to be like what Brian Callahan, I think, gave you an excuse today of, well, if he didn't have that one dumb play. Okay. But if that ball gets picked and that's 3 interceptions in that game, I don't know what would happen with that crowd. Like, I don't know what would have happened with that crowd. There was a game, speaking of the Jets, that Zach Wilson went through. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Jacksonville played, believe at the end of the 2021 season, maybe. Might have been 2022. I can't remember. At the end of the season, Jacksonville played a Thursday nighter against the Jets. It was around Christmas time. And Zach Wilson was so bad, and the crowd was booing so loudly, and there was nothing at that point that they could do. I mean, TV just kept showing Joe Flacco standing there on the sideline. And Joe Flacco had this look on his face that was like, hey, I don't want to get in. Don't put me in. And that's what, if that had been a 3rd interception for Levis, that's what that would have been. The one thing I am aware of that I want everybody to know is if you think you're going to tune into this show on Wednesday and hear a different tune, or if you think you're going to tune into this show on Friday and hear a different tune, that's not going to happen. If the consensus of the fan base is like it was last week, which on Monday everybody was mad at Levis, then as the week went on, it was one game Jared Hill learned that by the end of the week, it was 1/2. It was a 1/2. If you think that's going to change, you're listening to the wrong show. Because I've already made up my mind on Levis. Now, there are people that have texted into the text line about the Carolina Panthers, because the Carolina Panthers have benched Bryce Young. Now, Carolina, apparently Dave Canales, who's the coach there, got up and said, no, he's still our quarterback and we still believe. And Jordan Schultz just put out that Bryce Young felt betrayed by the team, that they're going to go with Andy Dalton. So when everybody, because again, I know that this is going to lead to, well, if Carolina can bench Bryce Young, before we get to any whether or not Levis should be benched, and the discussion, we should be allowed to have the discussion, whether or not Levis should be benched. I don't think Levis should be benched. I think that Levis is the quarterback right now, and Mason Rudolph, there's very little upside to winning 6 games, which is what Mason Rudolph, I think, would do for you. So as of right now, I mean, I'll give Levis every opportunity because there's not a real other option to go to. If they had re-signed Ryan Tannehill, if they had gone up to Ryan Tannehill and they had said, Ryan, we want you back. We're going to give you $15 million to be the backup. But you got to understand you're the backup. Or we're going to give you $10 million to be the backup. But you got to understand you're the backup. And if Ryan Tannehill had said, okay, I can accept a $20 million haircut, and I still want to live in Nashville, and I still want to be a part of the team, and I still want to play for this coach, and I'll be the backup. If that had happened, then I'd say make the switch back to Tannehill, which this is why Tannehill's not the backup, by the way. This is why Joe Flacco's not the backup. This is why the Titans didn't get a real backup. It's because if they got a real backup, we'd be saying they need to put the real backup in. But before you use the Carolina Panthers to justify the decision of whether or not the Titans should bench Will Levis, let me just offer this, if I could. Do you want to be like the Panthers? Like, do you really want to say, well, the Panthers did it, let's be like them? Bryce Young might suck. I have no idea. I don't even think I've watched Bryce Young play a full game in the NFL. And if you think I'm going to, while the Titans are playing, because you know Carolina, they kick off at noon too. If you think I'm going to sit there and say, oh, no, I got to watch the Bryce Young game, baby. If you think that's the case, you know that's not going to happen. You know it. But I have to believe that Bryce Young doesn't suck that bad. I saw some people put out there that league executives think the Panthers have set themselves back forever for drafting Young instead of Stroud. I'm like, why didn't they say it then? I'll tell you right now, if I were the Carolina Panthers, I'd be getting fired right now too, because I would have drafted Anthony Richardson over C.J. Stroud. Now, I would have taken care of Anthony Richardson better than the Colts have, and I'd have run the ball with Jonathan Taylor more yesterday, and I would have put more than 5 guys in the box against Malik Willis, who was never going to throw the ball yesterday, but that's their problem, not mine. But again, I cannot imagine that Bryce Young sucks that bad. The problem in Carolina, though, is the owner, and the owner won't get out of the way. The problem for me with this team has been the owner since the day she fired John Robinson. And again, I like Amy a lot, and I think she cares. But just because I think Will Levis cares too. But that was a moment for me because I think the John Robinson firing was so stupid when it happened that it depressed me as a Titan fan because it made me feel like the path that we've been down for the last 22 months since that happened was inevitable when that moment occurred. But Carolina's owner is 100 times worse. And so I don't want to be like Carolina. So before you guys telling me like, oh, hey, but Carolina did it, we should do it. Let's try not to be like Carolina if we could. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So I know today is Bang on Will Levis Day, part 6 after 5 last week. I am going to comment on Brian Callahan's coaching because I don't hear a lot of criticism of that, and I think there needs to be a little criticism. There's a handful of things that happened yesterday that I just not acceptable to me and need to be called out. And I like Brian Callahan, but we got to call it like it is, and we'll do that next. 615-737-1025 on a Titans Monday at Stillman and Company. This week's best deal is Daddy Dogs, Nashville's biggest and best gourmet hot dogs. Whether you're taking your office lunch to the next level or saving your life on the late night streets of Broadway, you can't go bigger or better than Daddy's Dogs. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals now to get a $25 gift card for half price while supplies last. By the way, I just saw that Daddy Dogs has milkshakes because they showed it on the Jumbotron yesterday at the Titans game. So be excited for that. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 The Game.
Titans get it back at the 25. Fake the handoff. Levis. Deep shot on the way.
Contested ball. Traylon Burks. But the Jets come away with it. Brandon Echols. A 50-50 shot. Actually, a 33% chance considering it was double coverage from the Jets. And Echols somehow gets his body turned around for the pick.
And then fights Traylon Burks for the football and comes up with it. What a heck of a play. Eccles starting today for the injured DJ Reed.
Down by contact.
And Brian Callahan dials up a shot play early in this drive. I think he was trying to help his quarterback's confidence. After what had happened there, the chewing out on the sideline, trying to give him something, but I know he told him, make sure it's open before you throw it, and double coverage turns into another interception.
So that's turnovers on consecutive plays for Will Levis. Jets get it back.
I mean, when I saw that ball get intercepted, I turned to my buddy at the game and I said, okay, all right, well. So I'm going to criticize Brian Callahan's coaching, if I may, here for a second, because I know that, again, everybody's bagging on Levis, and Levis is the main culprit. And, we'll get to Rand Carthon later, because I heard something yesterday that it's almost like when somebody goes out of their way to defend Rand, it makes me angry. Not Rand's doing a great job. That's what I'm talking about. But when you say something that is factually not true, like I heard yesterday on Russian Titans television after the game was over, I heard Rand didn't draft Will Levis. Guffaw. Like, that's just factually inaccurate. And so, again, I'll get to that later. But I do want to criticize Brian Callahan here for a little bit. Number one, can we stop with the Treylon Burks thing? He blows, period. He sucks. It's the worst decision John Robinson ever made. I bet if you talk to John Robinson about it today, and I have not talked to John Robinson about it, but I bet if you talk to John Robinson today, he'll say that's the worst decision he's ever made. The trade for A.J. Brown, I mean, Treylon Burks sucks. Like, he's not a good player. Even when he's healthy, which is not very often, he's not good. Do you remember last year at New Orleans when he dropped a third down that Tannehill hit him right in the hands? Do you remember against Cleveland when he dropped 3 passes last year? I mean, I got to give them credit because they operated this offseason like they didn't give a rat's ass about Burks. They signed Calvin Ridley to the big deal. They wanted Harrison. They wanted Neighbors. They signed Tyler Boyd after they didn't get one of those two guys. Got it. Like, you don't think much of Burks. We said that when they signed Boyd, and they were like, no. He ran the fastest of the GPS tracker, whatever. I don't care. He stinks. He stunk in camp. He stunk in the first game when he got a ball right in his hands and he dropped it, and he stinks now. So can we stop dialing up the big plays for Burks? And again, I don't even know whose fault it is. Paul's sitting here saying, how do you get the ball taken away from you when you're 225 pounds by a guy who's 165 pounds, which I do think there's some merit to that. Derek is saying Levis threw the ball too short, which I think there's probably some merit to that. So again, it's not even necessarily about that particular play. And I don't know who messed up, but let's just stop it with Treylon Burks. He stinks. There are practice squad players around the NFL that you could sign and put on your team that will give you as much or more than Burks. Trust me. He sucks. I hate it. I hate the fact that they wasted a first-round pick and they traded A.J. Brown, and I hate it. But it is reality, and we need you to admit it. So that's first thing. Number two, could you hurry it up on the last drive of the game? I mean, there's 4:31 to go. And the Titans were treating it like there was 4:31 to go in the third quarter, not the fourth quarter. Like, I'm sitting there in the stands. I'm like, get your butts to the line. There's 4:31. You've got 3 timeouts. So if you don't get the ball, like if you end up turning it over on downs, if God forbid you have to punt, again, your quarterback is Will Levis. If you throw an interception, if that happens, they're going to run it 3 times. You call timeout and you get the ball back. But not if you waste all that time huddling up and everybody walking around. And I mean, again, I'm looking at the coach. I'm like, hurry it up. Get to the line. Let's go. Like, that's not Levis's fault. Like, you might have needed to get the ball back. But when you look at 4:31 and you say, okay, guys, take your sweet time out there, what you're saying is we're playing a one-possession game, which, again, with Levis as your quarterback, I'm not exactly sure is a great idea. Also, speaking of Burks, and I didn't include this kind of in my rant right there, but when it came to Burks, My favorite thing was at one point in the game, like in that 4-minute, 30-second, like 2-minute drill-esque kind of, Burks turned over to the sideline and asked for a sub, and they said no. I'm like, get your ass in shape. Enough with the Burks showed up in the best shape of his life. Yeah. 3 minutes to go at midfield in the game, and you need a sub. Unbelievable. If you're going to play the game that the Titans played, where you're going to say 4:31 in the game with 3 timeouts, hey, we're not going to speed things up. We're going to take our sweet time and run that clock down. Tick, 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 because we don't want to give Aaron Rodgers the ball back. Don't be afraid to run the ball. Like when Levis ends up running the ball across the middle of the field and Callahan takes the first time out, which when Levis got out, like, timeout. At this point, 1st and goal at the 10. And I hated that it was 1st and goal at the 10 because I would prefer it be like 1st and goal at the 3. But 1st and goal at the 10, that's okay. You got 2 timeouts. Don't be afraid to run the ball. You can't pass protect. Levis has made bad decision after bad decision. The best player on offense is Tony Pollard. Don't be afraid to line up in shotgun with 4 guys looking like they're outside of the pattern, making the Jets think that you're going to throw and running a draw with Tony Pollard. And I'm not expecting Tony Pollard to run for 10 yards, though I don't think it's out of the possibility. I'm not expecting Pollard to run it for 10 yards, but if Pollard can run it for 5, and now it's 2nd and goal at the 5, you call your second timeout, I think you've got a much better shot to be able to go out there and win the game. So I did not like the fact that, again, I didn't like the fact that with 4:31 to go, the Titans took their sweet time out there on Sunday like it was a beautiful Sunday afternoon to grandma's after church. But if you're going to do that and you've got your timeouts and you're at the 10-yard line, run the ball. You don't have to be a one-dimensional team right there. And then my other criticism of the coaching yesterday, too many times, the Titans on a 3rd and long went 5 out. 5 guys in the pattern and nobody in to protect, and you know you can't pass block, and on 3rd down without even a threat of a draw, without any, you're going to get the quarterback killed. And I think he knows that. Like, I think Brian Callahan, and he didn't do it a ton, but I think he knows that. But seriously, 5 out in the pattern. I understand that on the last play of the game on 4th and goal from the 8 or whatever that was, I think, Ian, that might have been further back because they got sacked.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They were like at the 12 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But 4th and goal, I understand 5 guys have to go out in the pattern there, and the offensive line has to bow up. I get it. But at the same time, you don't need to send 5 guys into the pattern with this offensive line every time. So a bunch of people have texted into the text line about the decision for the Titans to take their sweet time. Again, I'm criticizing that with 4:31 to go, the Titans were huddling up, walking to the line, that kind of stuff. And everybody is saying, well, but Jared, they didn't want to give Aaron Rodgers time. They didn't want to. With 4:31 to go and 3 timeouts, like, there's a chance you may punt that ball back to the Jets. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it wasn't exactly Kurt Warner's Rams out there as far as your offense was concerned yesterday. So I'm thinking about it like, hey, I want to make sure that if we end up having to give this ball, if I'm the coach, if we have to give this ball back to the Jets, like that we can get it back and get a second possession. Now, it happened that you didn't need the second possession because you got down to the goal line. Good for you. But I would have played it differently. I also would have kicked the extra point if I had scored a touchdown. And I'm pretty sure, based on the way that they were taking it up there, I'm pretty sure the Titans were going for 2. And boy, what a show that would have been. What a show that would have been if they had gone for 2 and not gotten it at the end of the game. But that was my sense, was they were going to go for 2. Because to a lot of your point, and I get it, they didn't want to give Aaron Rodgers the ball back. Like, they did not want Aaron to get it back. And I understand, late in the game, Aaron made plays that, even though he was not vintage MVP Aaron Rodgers, he was Aaron Rodgers. And he made some plays that said, I'm Aaron Rodgers. The touchdown pass to Brees Hall was an I'm Aaron Rodgers. The throw to Garrett Wilson on 2nd and 21, I'm Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's that kind of play. So I understand. But at the same time, for all you people out there that loves better than Aaron Rodgers. But again, my point is, with my offense as anemic as they were, I don't trust that I'm going to have to just be able to kill the clock out. Like, I want to make sure if I got to get the ball back, I want to make sure I can get the ball back. If Levis throws an interception, I want to make sure I get the ball back. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. Okay. Let's start with the offensive line, shall we? Shall we talk offensive line? I believe there was one prominent member of the local sports media that kept telling everybody the Titans didn't have a right tackle. I cannot remember who that is. I remember there was one prominent member of the Titans organization who's in the team's Hall of Fame, may he rest in peace, who pretty much said you can't win without a right tackle. And everybody dismissed it. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game.
What's a reasonable expectation for week-to-week improvement on offensive line pass protection?
I mean, it's slow and steady sometimes, and I know it's not a perfect answer, but I thought if you look at what JC did from week 1 to week 2, and I thought what you look what Peter did to week 1 to week 2, that was a pretty good jump. Those guys did a nice job and they improved, and we got to do a better job on the right side. That's where a lot of the pressure came in the game, but it's possible to improve at a good enough rate, but it's also not necessarily an overnight process. So things take time and they take experience and reps, and that's where we're at.
That was Brian Callahan today saying it'll take time. Don't worry about it. It'll take reps. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine on the offensive line. So Next Gen Stats, NFL Next Gen Stats came out and they said Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a.
PT.
PT gave up 13 pressures yesterday. Adam Vingan sent me the breakdown yesterday. So this is from Next Gen Stats. The Jets pass rush generated pressure on 60% of dropbacks, the highest by a defense since week 13 of 2023. They had 11 players generate at least one pressure, including 4. With 4 or more, Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald led the team with 5 pressures apiece. And Jermaine Johnson got carted off with 8 minutes to go in the game?
Yeah, an Achilles.
I mean, and he still had 5 pressures. McDonald also recorded 3 sacks. Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a. PT, allowed 13 pressures, tied for the 5th most in a game since 2018. The 60% pressure rate allowed by the Titans is their highest in the game since week 5 of 2022. Let me say this with my eyes. I reserve the right to review the tape and then judge otherwise. I saw Blake Bedingfield, the former Titans director of scouting, who got the Titans to draft Derrick Henry, came out and said it was 9 pressures that PT allowed. I don't think the offensive line was as bad as it's been. I know it's bad, but we knew it was going to be bad. They're all rookies and second-year guys, and PT and Radens both stink, and we knew that. And so this isn't, shocking to me. I want everybody to know that. But I know what bad offensive line play is over the last couple of years, and I wouldn't have said that yesterday was a top 10 worst offensive line game from the Titans over the last 3 years. When you tell me that PT's performance was the 5th worst performance since 2018, you're telling me that what happened yesterday was worse than Dillard, Daly, and Duncan. And I didn't think it was that bad. And I think PT sucks. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I have argued night and day. Remember the San Francisco preseason game when I tweeted out that PT sucks? And Joe Rexroad said, we were laughing in the press box at your tweet that said PT sucks. Ha, ha, ha. I'm like, yeah, breaking news. PT sucks. But again, I didn't think it was as bad as the Next Gen Stats say it is. So I'm calling it like I see it. But if you're a listener of this show, you're going to have to hear something that you've heard before. Because if you think I'm not going to tell the right tackle story right now, you're out of your mind. I spent the entire offseason talking about right tackle. Brian Callahan got hired, and I told him the right tackle story the day after he got hired. I remember during free agency when he went on the midday show and he said, PT and Duncan, they've got some traits. They might be our guy at right tackle. And I said, no. Don't do it. I complained in OTAs when PT didn't practice. People try to tell me John Ojukwu, who hasn't even been active for the first 2 weeks, he cannot get active with this group of bums. John Ojukwu was going to win that job, remember? And I said, no. Then PT gets healthy, and they say he's actually playing great. And I said, no. Here's the deal. The reason why the left side played better this week is because the Titans worried about the left side this week. They protected the left side this week. And if you protect the left side, what does that mean for the right side? Again, I understand you don't want to send 5 guys out into every pattern. You can't send 1 guy out into a pattern. So what happened was the Titans went into the Chicago game. They were worried about the right side of the line, so they protected it. What that did was that left open the left side of the line. So this week, because the left side of the line was so bad against Chicago, and again, I haven't watched a second of film. This is just common sense. They protected the left side of the line, and the right side was a disaster, and that's why the coach got up there and said, JC did better, and Peter did better, like it matters. Congratulations. JC Latham played better this week than he did last week. It wasn't a high bar. But this is what happens when you make mistakes in April and March and May, and you convince yourself of something that's not true. And what the Titans did was they convinced themselves, and a lot of you fans bought into this. And I remember sending out a tweet. I was at my parents' house, and I was, it was during free agency, and I was banging the table for a right tackle, even a guy who wasn't even that good, just better than what they got now. And I said, PT, Radens, and Duncan are not options at right tackle. Why not, Jared? Bill Callahan will fix it. Did he? Did he? Has he? As I said, Bill Callahan is not Jesus Christ. He cannot turn water into wine, or in this case, what might be sewage into wine. He can't do it. Now, he also can't do it in 2 weeks. And so I do expect them to get better throughout the course of the year with Bill Callahan coaching them. But again, this will happen again next year. If the Titans don't address right tackle, they're not going to win. Because there's a lot of positions in the NFL you can win in spite of not really having. The Jets don't really have a tight end. Who is Tyler Conklin? The Jets don't really have a guard on the right side. Elijah Vera Tucker is okay on the left side. But you know what the Jets have? They have 3 tackles. They have Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, and they drafted Olu Fashanu in the first round. They have 3 tackles. You might have 1. You can't win in the NFL with no tackles. So, I hate to say it, but when it comes to the right tackle story, you guys don't want to hear it anymore. And you guys talk about how terrible, you hate when I tell it and how bad it. And I kept telling you it's only March, Jared. It's only April, Jared. It's only right, because that's when you can do something about it. There isn't a tackle you can go get right now that you can stick at right tackle that's better than PT. And PT gave you one of the worst performances of the last 6 years, according to Next Gen Stats. Which, again, I really didn't think it was that bad compared to some of the bad we've seen over the years. That's how bad it's been. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. I appreciate honesty, and I don't want to discourage it. But Will Levis just said something yesterday that I am still wrapping my head around. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company on a Titans Monday. It's 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Titans Monday on the program, and it's a lot like last week's Titans Monday. Titans start the game off. They're in command of the game. Quarterback does something stupid. The only big difference was last week the block punt happened before the stupid thing from the quarterback. This week the stupid thing from the quarterback happened first. But again, it just turned the entire game into a train wreck, and you still had a chance at the end of the game, and yet they found a way to come up short. And while I told you guys going into the season, my hope and your hope, and you can say this wasn't your hope, but it was your hope. My hope and your hope was that Will Levis was going to be a star. What we saw from C.J. Stroud last night on Sunday Night Football, that was our hope. Star. Did we think it was going to happen? I said, look, I'm right in the middle. I could see it happening. I could see it not. He had some promising things his rookie year, had some big red flags as well. The idea is in the offseason, now that you know what it's like to be a professional, clear up the red flags, accentuate what makes you very good, and he's got an offensive coach. The problem is he's accentuated the red flags. That's not good. That's not good. So I learned after game one, he ain't going to be Dan Marino. Like, as much as that's what everybody wants. Marino, Montana, Elway, Favre, Brady, Manning, Mahomes. That's what everybody wants. That's all he wants. And it wasn't going to be that. Well, then there was, it was just one game, Jared. And I said, okay, you guys say that. But now it's not just one game, it's two. And even Levis knows it. And yesterday, after the game, asked about the dumb decisions over and over again. And Will Levis said something I've never heard a quarterback ever say before.
It's got to be something that's more second nature to me. And I'm going to do everything I can to rewire my brain to make sure that when I'm in those situations, I'm not making those decisions. And I think throughout my career, I've gotten a lot better of not forcing things, or at least forcing balls into windows, but that's a different kind of play. It's something that is not going to show up as much, but is obviously much more important because the ball is put in jeopardy and opportunity for the other team to get the ball. So going to keep working to just be better for my team.
You don't have to explain to us, Will, why putting the ball in jeopardy in stupid situations with no upside is a bad idea. I think we understand that. But the part where he said, I need to rewire my brain, I have to applaud the honesty and the self-awareness, because he's right. Here's the problem. What do you think's easier to do? Rewire your brain or me go find another quarterback? The answer is going to find another quarterback. Like, it sounds nice to say, you know what, I got to rewire my brain, guys. But that's not really how that works. You don't rewire a quarterback's brain. You go get another quarterback. That's what you do. These teams spend millions and millions of dollars during the draft process trying to determine if these guys' brains are wired correctly. And it is not just the coach, like we saw in Giants Hard Knocks. It's not just the coach sitting down with the quarterback saying, okay, 22 XYZ slap banana curl. What are you doing right here? And it's like, oh, yeah, well, you know, the backside guy comes here and the inside guy goes there. And then he goes, we see that. The Gruden QB camp. That is not what you do. Like, there is more to it than just that. You have a team psychiatrist or psychologist that sits there and talks to the guy and does a mental evaluation. You have the position coach that spends time with him. You talk to the college coach. You talk to the college coordinator. You talk to the high school coach. You do everything humanly possible to be able to get a read on your young quarterback to decide if he's going to be somebody that you should invest, in this case, $9 million in. And obviously they weren't that blown away with Levis because they drafted a guard who's not very good ahead of him. But again, once you make the pick, you're saying, hey, he's checked all of our boxes. I had a general manager, a former NFL general manager, tell me the night Levis got drafted, he didn't fall because of a toe. He fell because a lot of these coaches didn't trust the personality. Again, these guys are paid millions of dollars to determine if these guys' brains are wired correctly. Bill Polian told a story about Peyton Manning. He said that when he was at the combine and held the number one pick, and as easy as it is to say Peyton Manning number one, no duh, as easy as it is to say that, there was a big debate between Manning and Leaf. And he said that Peyton Manning said to him, if you draft me number one, I'll be there tomorrow. Polian said, well, you can't actually come in the facility the next day. You got to wait a week and Manning, whatever. I will be there the next day. You do what you got to do to talk to the NFL. You do that. I will be there the next day. Bill Polian said they sat down with Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf said, oh, yeah, after I get drafted, I'm going to Vegas to hang out with my guys, and then I'm this, and then I'm that, and then I'm all these different things. And Bill Polian said that Leaf said that in contrast to Manning. He looked at Jim Morris Sr., the coach, and they just kind of laughed like, couldn't be more different than that. Does anybody know what the two most important things are to Bill Belichick when it comes to quarterback play? Granted, Bill's not a quarterback whisperer. He probably lucked into Tom Brady. But the two most important things, decision-making and accuracy. Not arm strength, not size, not athleticism, not heart. No. Decision-making and accuracy. When it comes to Will Levis, what's his chronic problem? Decision-making and accuracy. So in his case, he should be trying to rewire his brain to keep himself from making these boneheaded mistakes. But if, as a Titan fan, if I'm supposed to sit there and say, well, I have faith because the quarterback said that he needs to rewire his brain, and I think he will. And the head coach was asked what to do, and the head coach said, well, we'll just keep coaching him. But they don't really have any true solutions. Yeah, I'm going to go look for another quarterback. Because, again, as is the case with anything, what do you think's easier? And I don't want to put anybody, in a situation, you love your spouse, you love your wife, you love your significant other, whatever. What's easier? We've all been 24. Talking to somebody that's got their own issues. They like you, and then they don't like you, and then they like you, and then they don't like you. What's easier? Them rewiring their brain or you finding somebody else? You know the answer. So if you're wondering if you should have any hope that Will Levis got up there yesterday and said, I'm going to rewire my brain, the answer should be unequivocally no. You should have no hope for that. Because again, who at the quarterback position has rewired their brain? I think there are guys that had bad coaches that kind of screwed them up a little bit, and then they got with better coaches, and it kind of corrected some of those issues. Ryan Tannehill after Adam Gase. Sam Darnold also after Adam Gase. But Vince Young couldn't rewire his brain to stop going to TGI Fridays. Jamarcus Russell couldn't rewire his brain. Mariota couldn't rewire his brain to become more aggressive. So again, I hope Will Levis succeeds in what he's looking for. I do. I wish him the best. But again, if my options are, okay, let's hope Levis rewires his brain, or let's hope that, let's go get another quarterback, I vote get another quarterback. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. So what does that mean in terms of benching Will Levis? Because here I am talking about getting another quarterback, and yet you have not heard me say one time that I think they should bench him. So what does all that mean? We will get to that next, and we will get to your phones at 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 for the game.
This is the 22nd play of the half for Tennessee. The Jets have run 9 plays. That's it. Spears in there. 3rd and goal. Levis looking.
Levis tripped. He tried to shovel it. That ball is free, and the Jets have it. We saw last week Levis trying to do too much, and it just happened again. Williams jumps on top of it.
And the reason it's the issue, backwards pass, not flipping it forward. If he flips it forward, it's an incomplete pass. Instead, he flips it backwards. It's a lateral and a free ball and turns it over.
And playing to the scouting report.
Playing to the scouting report, i.e. the scouting report is, guys, Levis might be a moron. Like, that's the scouting report of your starting quarterback. Guys, he might do something incredibly stupid that cost them the game. He might. That's the scouting report. So let me get this out here before I get to your phones at 615-737-1025 on a Titans Monday. While I think the Titans 2024 season is a sinking ship, and I don't think Levis is going anywhere, and I think the offensive line is a mess, maybe not as bad as the next-gen stats say, but still pretty terrible, which is rich for me, by the way, not to climb on board and say, see, but again, I'm just keeping it real. I wouldn't change anything right now. Like, I would not bench Will Levis. And I might not even bench Will Levis at all. Like, I may roll the entire year with this level of bullcrap.
I don't think I would bench him either.
Now, 16 weeks is a long time. So, like, you know.
Could you imagine one of those a week? One of these mistakes every week?
I do think that if that's the case, he will not be playing against Miami. I really, if he does this again.
One more like this, do you have an option?
3 games in a row and you lose to Malik?
Ugh.
So, but I really believe that Will Levis is terrible and that he might improve mildly, but won't improve to any monumental degree that will change the franchise's fortunes. I think it beats the alternative right now of having Mason Rudolph be your quarterback and winning 7 games. Because that's what I think you win with Rudolph as your quarterback. You win 7 games. You win 7 of the last 15, and you finish 7-10. And congratulations, now you're picking 9th. I'm just not sure that does you a lot of good. Maybe I'm wrong about the defense. We'll get to the defense in a bit. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the defense is much better than that. You're better off making the change. But I'm just telling you what I would do right now. And what I would do is we're riding it out with Levis, even though I don't see the upside there that, I mean, I thought there was a chance Levis could make it. I really did. But everything is so, I mean, again, you can't fix stupid. And it is what it is. And when he's saying he's got to rewire his brain, that's just not going to happen. That would be like saying the Carolina Panthers owner needs to be less impulsive. Like, that's just not going to happen. He is who he is. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Dennis has been waiting very patiently and is up next here on the Titans Monday. Dennis, go ahead.
Hey, Jared. How's it going? You know, just a quick thought. Basically, Levis kind of played the same ball game in a way. And when he said today about rewiring his brain, the first thing I thought of, and give me your thought on this, is he thinking football? Because football, you got to think. And to say you're going to rewire your brain, are you just going out there with a good arm, the ability to scramble, and saying, yeah, I can make that play. Give me the play, I'll make it. And no thinking involved, because here's what I'm saying. I'm a Niner fan for over 60 years, actually. And Brock Purdy's out there. The kid probably doesn't even have 80 to 90% of the ability most quarterbacks have in the NFL, but he's 26-8 or something like that. He's in the Shanahan system. We'll give him all that. But Brock Purdy, when you said about Belichick, Brock Purdy makes a good decision, and he thinks. And I'm wondering, is there anybody around Will Levis on that team in the coaching staff primarily that's just talking football with them?
So I think Will Levis is obsessed with football, Dennis. I do, and I appreciate your call. I think Will Levis is obsessed with football. And I don't know Will Levis that well, but I sat down with him at the Super Bowl, and, like, he's wound so tight that I just wanted to say, like, I honestly just want to put my arm around him, because when I was sitting there with him, I realized, like, how young he is. Like, I'm 9 years older than him. And I almost just wanted to be like, son, It's okay. Like, it's like, just chill out. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. And I don't want to push you in any direction one way but it'll all be okay, because that's how tight he was wound in February at Super Bowl.
Doesn't that stuff come naturally with age, though? That kind of like relaxing.
Chilling out?
Yeah. Like, can you force that on young people? I don't know. I'm like composure or whatever.
Composure. That's it. Hey, get Solomon Wilcox on line 1 for Will Levis. Composure.
I'm just saying, like, you're saying that as like, in your mid 30s or whatever. Like,
well, I ain't waiting for his mid 30s.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, can you tell that to people in their 20s and then, actually do that? Or is that just something that comes with age? Like, will he be able to work on that as he plays more in the league? I don't know.
You're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. But that is a very good point you make, and I do not knock it. Like, I understand that is, I do understand that element to it. But I think Levis is obsessed. I think he's obsessed with football. I think he loves football. I think he wants to be great. I think he's as passionate as you can be about it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that DeMario thing was an example of the fact that he's really just taking his, just sitting there watching TV all day and enjoying being a celebrity. I don't know. That's his business, not mine. But at the same time, like, I think he does think about it. Now, I don't think he can think like Brock Purdy. Like, I don't think he has that natural ability. And I think the reason why Brock Purdy is as good as he is because he can do what Kyle Shanahan tells him to do. Going back to you're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen, Shanahan spends the entire week telling Brock what to do, and then Brock goes out and does it. And I think that's why Shanahan loves him so much, because he does whatever I tell him to do. That I got to give him credit for. There's something else I was thinking, but I guess I forgot what it was. Ellie's up next here on Will Levis. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Ellie?
I disagree with you 100%. I think the mistake he made yesterday is much less than the first one. I mean, yesterday he was trying to do a little bit of hero ball. He saw Tajay Spears just hanging out, doing nothing all alone. And Tajay could have helped him out a little bit, too. He had a brain fart himself. I mean, he's still a rookie.
I do agree with you, by the way. Nobody's talked about this. Spears needs to dive on the ball.
Yeah, and they just had a brain fart. It was much worse first.
Spears was trying to field it like a shortstop. Like, get on the ball.
But exactly, and what's his name? Callahan said, "You're better than this," to Levis, and he is better than this. And he's young. He's a rookie still. He's only played rookie. He's trying to unlearn a lot of the crap he learned last year too. I mean, he might probably have some PTSD from last year's offensive line, because I think this year's offensive line's better. We got to give him a full year. Jordan Love sucked the first 8 games of his year, and he's trying to be Patrick Mahomes. And he doesn't realize he doesn't necessarily need to be Patrick Mahomes. There's only one Patrick Mahomes. He's a smart kid. He has all the tools. He made some really good passes. He's completed over 60% of his passes, over 65%. He could have had a couple more if there was a couple of drops. We got to give him some more time. I think the team will progress as time will go on. And, we'll know better game 9. I don't want to make a judgment first 8 games. Let's give him up to game 9. Let's see how he progresses and how time goes on. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I'll give him till game 9 too, or however long until it's obvious you got to pull the plug. And even then, again, we have to talk about what's the upside with Mason Rudolph. But again, I hear all of this. I mean, the idea of like, oh no, it's just one play. No. Last week's play was worse. I can't tell you which one's worse. I think if he doesn't I'll tell you this right now. They were up by a point when he made that play against the Bears. They were up by a touchdown, and they were winning time of possession 14:52 to 6:22. And they had 79 pass yards to the Jets 7, and they were up 7-0 and driving the football. They would have been up 10-0. That would have changed what Aaron Rodgers would have been forced to do. And the situation would have taken the run game away from the Jets. I think that the mistake in the Jets game literally, truly cost them the game. Whereas there's a chance Caleb could have come down and kicked a field goal and they would have lost. I think they were equally as bad, and I'm not going to make an excuse for it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025 here on the program. We will get back to some of your phones, but coming up next, I heard some gaslighting to the nth degree after the game yesterday. gaslighting by people I think should know better. And they want to blame you for this. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Right now, I've got Hiller coming out to the house this week. That's how much I love Hiller. They do really, truly take care of my home, and they can do the exact same for you. You've heard me talk about Hiller and how it feels like being part of a family. Well, this month, Hiller is treating you like family, too, with their Friends and Family Savings event. Happy Hiller Club members save up to 25% off your first HVAC, plumbing, and electrical repair. And everybody else gets a 10% discount. Present your coupon and save by visiting happyhiller.com to download a coupon today. Again, you've heard me talking about the Happy Hiller Club before. I'm a member, and this is one of the examples of the kind of special benefits you get when you join. That's happyhiller.com. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
And now it's 4th down. Rodgers telling the defense, one more. 4th and goal, back at the 14.
Jets trying to hold on. Tennessee trying to rally. Levis, a dart. It's bubbled and dropped by Boyd. The Jets defense holds up.
Okay, that was the final play. Now you're 0-2. And I thought when they snapped the ball, Ian, on 4th down, what % chance in your head? I don't care what the next gen stat
10.
said the chance.
10 max.
I think that might honestly be a little high. I did not feel like the Titans were going to get it on that. Not that you thought that either, but I guess
There was a little bit of hope after he
don't.
broke away from that sack and scrambled up a little bit, but then, I don't know, quickly went away.
As did the optimism for the season for most of you, and it should. So yesterday, I was listening to what the discourse was after the game. Fans were mad at the quarterback. Fans wanted to give up on the season. Fans are talking about, changing quarterbacks. Fans are disappointed they got rid of Malik, which is going to be a big topic of discussion this week, and so on and so forth. And then I heard some gaslighting that honestly took it to the nth degree. I was legitimately angry for you, the fans, to be talked to in this way by somebody who I think should know better. The problem this season are our expectations for the Titans. Again, somebody who knows better, somebody who has a little credibility, albeit not with me anymore, but has some credibility, even after what they said last week. They're saying, it's all right, it's okay, don't worry about it, it's going to be fine, it's this. But the problem was we got too excited with what the Titans did this offseason because Rand went out there and he did his thing in free agency, which, by the way, anybody can do their thing in free agency. Just have the owner give them money and they can do it. And when you're not paying a quarterback and you're not paying a running back, when you don't have any good players on your team, it's easy to go out there and pay a bunch of guys. But Rand did his thing this offseason, and it got us excited, and we should not have had that high of an expectation for this football team. Our expectations, fans, that is the problem. Not the quarterback, not the coach, not the way the roster was built, not the line, us. And I was appalled at that. Because it's not the problem. Our expectations are not why the Titans have had 2 punts blocked in the first 2 weeks. Our expectations are not why the quarterback has had 2 of the stupidest turnovers through the first 2 games I've ever seen. No. The expectations were risen by the organization. Remember the term toxic positivity? And everybody said, what does that mean, toxic positivity? And I said, it's when you turn the entire organization into an episode of Sesame Street, where everybody's happy, everybody's doing a good job, everybody's singing along, everybody, whether it's Elmo, Ernie, Bert, Big Bird, it doesn't matter. That's what the Titans were this offseason. Remember when Brian Callahan went on Bussing with the Boys and he told the boys, I know people don't have high expectations for us, but I have high expectations for us. And Taylor Lewan was like, boys are winning the AFC South this year. Yeah, I watched the Texans last night. Don't think so, Taylor. But again, it was them. It was the Titans who got everybody's expectations high. You want to know the one show that never, ever, ever bought into the high expectations? And you're going to say, well, Jared, you're just talking about yourself. Ian had lower expectations this season than I did. His expectation was 4 wins. My expectation was 5 wins. No, Jared, you're going to see. It was the Titans. You never once heard the GM or the coach say, patience, guys. This is going to be tough. You never once heard it. Barry Trotz, the general manager of the Predators, came on our show last year in a season that was actually a good season. And Barry Trotz came on the show and he said at the beginning of the year, Ian, did he not? Fans, be patient with this team.
I think we heard that somewhere. Yeah.
He said this might be a tough season. Like he said it would be a wild ride. But he knew there was a chance the Predators might stink last year and get a top pick and everything. He wanted you, the fans, to be prepared. That's what he wanted. But you didn't hear that with the Titans. And I don't know if that's because they were selling, PSLs and everything. I don't know if that's because they are trying to pump everybody up. I've told you, I think that where this constant stream of positivity and everybody's doing great, and Brian Callahan's doing every podcast imaginable to tell you how much he believes in Will Levis. And I think that is because everybody is trying to please the owner. I think that they think that the owner is so stupid, and I don't think the owner's this stupid, but this is what I think they think. I think they think the owner is so stupid that they'll just say good things all the time and that she'll buy it and she'll be like, well, I'm glad everybody's happy to work together because that mean old Mike Vrabel wasn't that way. And that mean old John Robinson will lock himself in his office and watch tape all day. And we don't want that anymore. It was them that perpetuated the idea of these high expectations. It was them. It was Brian Callahan that told Sports Illustrated, hey, I watched the film and I told Rand, I was like, we don't need to draft a quarterback. We've got Will Levis. It wasn't Jared who said that. It was them. So don't blame me. It was them who brags about how great their coaching staff was. It was them who talked about how we're going to show them. It was them, not us. This idea of, oh no, fans, it's our fault. No, it is not. Somebody in the YouTube chat said, what is Callahan supposed to say? We're going to stink? No, he's supposed to do what the Bears owner did before the start of the season when he came out and said, guys, patience. Patience with Caleb. He's a rookie, and it will take him time to grow. And we like the team we have around him, but it's gonna be a tough ride, guys. Patience. The Titans never preach that. The one hint of preaching that they did with that was Chad Brinker at the Senior Bowl in the podcast he did where he talked about his cancer-curing AI model, and he basically said fans need to understand it doesn't happen overnight, but with our young quarterback, it might, and we realize that we have to win right away. That's what so it was kind of like a talking out of both sides of your mouth kind of, which he's very good at, and he does often, but that's what that was. That was the only shred of keep your expectations down, fans. Of keep them in check. And then you're going to have people that, again, should know better and probably do know better that are going to sit there and tell you. The problem is us. The problem is that our expectations were too high. Not on this show. In fact, we're the ones that people got mad at because we're like, yeah, that's not very good, and that's not very good, and I told you guys for months to chill out on the expectations, and I was the bad guy. And now you all are the bad guy, according to North Korean Titans television, because your expectations were way too high. By the way, the GM should have also known that just adding free agents wasn't going to solve every problem for this football team. But as I've learned over the years when it comes to Rand Carthon, he's never going to tell anybody, whether it's the owner, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a press conference, he's never going to tell anybody anything they don't want to hear in that moment. That's not what he does. By the way, I also heard, speaking of Rand Carthon, I heard for the second week in a row after the game that Rand Carthon didn't draft Will Levis. And that is so disappointing that somebody would have the gall to say that because it is so factually inaccurate. But that's what we're doing now. When we spun everything before the season, and I'm not saying we because I didn't do that on the show. Just tell it like it is. And then people get mad, but I don't care. But that's what's happened. Is they spent all this time trying to tell you the Titans were going to be good. They spent all this time telling you the Titans were going to be good. Now they're bad. Now you're the problem. That doesn't sound very fair, does it? Oh, and by the way, it should be noted that they've lost 2 one-score games, and the quarterbacks made 2 humiliatingly stupid plays, and the Titans have gotten 2 punts blocked in back-to-back weeks, which is absolutely unfathomable to me. So can I ask a question? Are the Titans 0-2 because the ball didn't bounce their way? Like, we should have this discussion now before at the end of the year when they win 5 games and Rand tells you the ball didn't bounce their way, because technically when Levis rolled the ball on the ground yesterday, it did not bounce to a player to pick it up to go run with it for a first down. I mean, in the Chicago game, I actually think the ball did bounce their way because Velus Jones kicked it right to Julius Chestnut. But, I mean, do we need to go over whether or not the ball bounced their way this week or not? The gaslighting is ridiculous. This team stinks, and the quarterback stinks, and it's not your fault that they stink. And if you bought into the hype, it's not your fault. But they should have known better. The same way Barry Trotz knew better when he took over the Predators. Guys, be patient. It's not that hard to say. They can't do it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. And the golden child of the Titans gaslighting culture, the most overrated player in the history of Nashville, Tennessee. Let's take a look at the stat sheet. Can we do that? And then I promise I'll get to your phones. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
Jets' last scoring drive, for the better part of the drive, neither Harold nor Jeff nor Sweat were out there. Was that just the other guy's time in the rotation to go, or what?
Yeah, that's the way I would see it. We didn't do them any favors offensively at that point, going 3 and out, I think, back to back. And so they're on the field a lot. If we do a better job on offense, those guys can play a little more. But I know they were playing a lot of snaps in a row and it was loading up. And so they're trying to rotate and keep them fresh for the end of the game. So that's probably what the case was there.
Oh, okay. So when the Jets went down and won the game, there wasn't really a sign of Simmons or Landry or Sweat. Why not? Well, the offense hadn't been out on the field long enough, and so we needed to get those guys rest. I'm sorry, what? Then why didn't PT get a rest? We can't put Simmons out there. He makes $23.5 million. You can't put Simmons in the game? And that takes me to Simmons. Because the Titans Barney-like culture of I love you, you love me, we all love each other, and we're going to win football games this year until we don't. The Barney culture, to me, is highlighted by none other than Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons is a fine NFL player. Jeffrey Simmons is not an elite NFL player. Jeffrey Simmons has never had 10 sacks in an NFL season. Yes, I know he's a defensive tackle. Warren Sapp played defensive tackle too. And Warren Sapp says, until you're a 10-sack guy, you can say whatever you want, but you're not a 10-sack guy. The old man used to always say, players in the league on the defensive line know that their value is measured in sacks. I remember it during the Jadeveon Clowney-like experiment when everybody said, but Jared, his ESPN Stats Inc. info win rate loss chart says he's as good as Nick Bosa. Okay, I'll take Nick Bosa. Again, we didn't buy it then. I didn't, neither did the GM. And he actually has experience with this. And his point was, again, you can say whatever you want, but sacks are sacks. So yesterday I was at the game and they handed out the team yearbooks after the game. Goes well on the coffee table. In fact, I moved last week. And when I moved, I threw out the 2020 yearbook and the 2023 yearbook. Don't know where 2021 and 2020 went, or 2022, but threw them out. But again, Jeffrey Simmons' face right there on my team yearbook. Harold Landry's was not. See, the Titans prop up Simmons. Big Jeff. Remember, Rand Carthon did a press conference and he got up in the booth during the preseason and said, Jeff came in my office and said, our offensive line's getting better. Well, it's a good thing Jeff's not the offensive line coach because his evaluation after we've seen the offensive line would have been wrong. But again, stats. Through 2 games, Jeffrey Simmons has 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, and 1 tackle for loss. And yet I'm told Big Jeff is the leader of this team. And thank God we've got Big Jeff. And Big Jeff is the best in the league. And Big Jeff has 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, and 1 tackle for loss. By the way, Harold Landry, who makes less money, who's not on my program, who's not even a team captain, Harold Landry has 3 sacks, 3 tackle for losses, and 4 quarterback hits through 2 games. Anybody else have a problem with this? See, what happens with Simmons is the Titans want him to be something he's not. The Titans want you to think that he is an elite player. He's not. He's a good player. He's a good player at a somewhat meaningful position. It's not as meaningful as edge rusher, but it is a somewhat meaningful position. But he's not a great player. Harold Landry's a good player too. He's not a great player. Nobody's arguing Harold's a great player. He's a good player. But Harold's not the one who everybody just kisses the ass of the way that the Titans kiss the ass of Jeffrey Simmons. And I'm tired of it. Like, hey, why don't you go hit the quarterback every now and then? It would be nice. And by the way, he did hit the quarterback yesterday. I mean, hit the quarterback legally. Not in the head on the face mask and then grab the face mask. Jeffrey Simmons talks and talks and talks and talks. Where's the walk? He's on my program. He's trying to pick fights with Buck. Where's the production? He got his money. Where are the sacks? Where are the game-changing plays on 2nd and 21 where Aaron Rodgers floats a ball for Garrett Wilson? Where's the game-changing play from my defensive tackle who, again, Rand Carthon can't do a press conference without saying, Big Jeff came into my office today. Again, we don't talk about Landry, but we got to talk about how great Simmons is. Notice you don't have to defend Tony Pollard when it comes to, well, no, Jared. Tony Pollard's actually good. I know. I watched the game. I see. You don't need to defend Calvin Ridley. I see. He can run. He can catch. I got it. Before DeAndre Hopkins got hurt, you didn't have to defend to me that DeAndre Hopkins was a good player. Ernest Jones yesterday had 9 tackles. He had 3 tackles for loss, which, again, if you're counting at home, it's more than Simmons. Simmons, no quarterback hits, no sacks, 1 tackle for loss through 2 games. That's the golden child. So don't anybody ever say anything bad. Tony is up next here on a Titans Monday, 615-737-1025. Tony, go ahead.
Hey, Jared. Just want to say I think the coaching on the Titans is on both sides. The offense and the defense has just been terrible. And they're, in the first half, the Titans play great, but in the second half, they can't hold a lead. And it's so frustrating. And it's just, I hold all the coaching staff responsible, the offense and the defense and everything else. They need to do a better job and get this team to start winning some games. I mean, it's just.
Here's where I hold the coaching staff accountable. Tony, thank you. Here's where I hold the coaching staff accountable. Number one, Levis's stupidity. You're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. There's got to be something that you got to do something. And again, they asked Brian Callahan, what's he doing? He said, coaching. You got to coach it. Number two, you can't get 2 punts blocked in back-to-back weeks. That's ridiculous. I mean, there are teams that go like a decade without getting a punt block. The Titans get a punt block every week. That is unacceptable. And I think the fact that they won't get off their knees on Treylon Burks, it's time to move on. And I'm not saying cut him or trade him and nobody wants him. But this idea that we gotta get the ball to Burks and we gotta play Burks 30 snaps and Burks sucks. Okay? Like, I know it, you know it. I thought they knew it when they spent the entire offseason replacing him, but I guess not. That's where I blame the coaching staff. As far as did the coaching staff cost us the 2 games? Probably not. 615-737-1025. So a lot of people today have said, talk about the defense, Jared, the defense. Somebody said Rand's defense is only top 5 because the broken corners aren't injured yet. First of all, Awuzie has already been injured, and let's hope he stays okay. But we actually do have to have a legitimate conversation about how good the defense is. Because depending upon how good you think the defense is, I think should answer the next question, which is the more important one, which is what do you do at quarterback? We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Titans Monday. And it's more so become like Funeral Monday around here. Mourning Monday. Talking about another Titans loss. Another depressing Titans loss. She was very depressing. But after that, we move forward. And the question now has to be, what about the quarterback, Will Levis? Do you believe? Do you not believe? Do they believe? Do they not believe? And this was Brian Callahan asked if he still believed in Will Levis after yesterday's game. Here's what he said.
How much confidence do you have in Levis?
I got plenty of confidence in Will. I believe in everything he's done so far, and we just got to keep working to get better. And he's made some mistakes that are costly, and I think he's learning from them. It's a painful lesson, and there's things that I'm learning about him that are helping me call the game better for him. And we're just going to keep at it. And there's really nowhere else to go but keep fixing mistakes and then trying to go win a football game. So that's ultimately where we're at. And I believe in Will and what he's capable of. And I thought his improvement this week was good. Obviously, the error aside, but there's been a lot of things he's gotten better at this week that I was happy with and pleased with.
Oh, okay. He was really happy with a lot of the things Levis did. Like what? But again, I don't put too much stock into that. What else is he going to say? If he's going to change a quarterback, he's going to have a discussion with the general manager. This is right after the game. He hadn't had a discussion with him. If he's going to change a quarterback, if he's going to throw the quarterback under the bus, he's going to have a discussion with the owner. I would assume at that point in time, he probably hadn't had a discussion with her at that point. So there are the discussions that happen behind the scenes as opposed to just, yeah, I believe in Will, and on you go. Like, what else is he going to say? Like, when he's asked about Malik, is he going to sit there and say, oh, man, we thought Malik sucked. That's why we traded him for a 7th-round pick, and look at us now. He's not going to say that. But internally, I think Brian Callahan knows that he not only can't win with Will Levis, I think he knows he can't trust Will Levis, no matter what he says. So then what do you do? And this is where the discussion about the defense actually becomes pretty important. So I don't know how good this Titans defense is. I thought they played very tough yesterday. I think that they are a tough-nosed ball club. I know I complain about the fact that Simmons doesn't sack the quarterback, doesn't hit the quarterback, doesn't do anything except pick up 15-yard penalties, and that is true. But Sweat's good, Landry's good, Ernest Jones is good, Kenneth Murray is doing what he was brought in here to do, and so far the corners have held up, albeit they didn't on 2nd and 21. So far, I think the defense, now granted, Caleb stinks right now, but I think the defense is good. I can't get there with elite. And I don't care that they're the number 1 defense in the NFL right now through 2 weeks. I can't get there with elite because they don't force any turnovers. And not only do they not force turnovers, they don't even get close to forcing turnovers. Like, Ian, you know what I mean when it comes to forcing turnovers? Like, there's not a, oh, man, Hooker could have had that ball or anything from yesterday.
Or at least a ball or two on the ground, if you could just picked it up. Or they had a couple of tip balls in the first week for Chicago. Couldn't snag those. Those were kind of close. So, but not as many this week.
No, and they put pressure on Aaron, but it wasn't like Aaron made any panicky decisions that could have become bad.
Yeah, there was one where I thought Harold Landry, when he kind of came from behind, when he was kind of coming out of the end zone, Rodgers didn't see him, and Landry ended up getting the sack. I thought there was one time where Landry could have tried a little bit harder to tomahawk chop. You got to knock that ball out. Because Rodgers didn't see him back there. Like, he really needed to come down and chop that ball out, force a fumble. But yeah.
Do you think the defense is good, or do you think the defense is elite?
Right now, I think it's good. Yeah.
Okay.
It's only 2 games. You can't go elite after 2 games, but it is looking pretty good.
Here's why we have to have this discussion. I'm not going to waste an elite defense. If the defense is elite, if the defense is the 2000 or Kyle Van Bosch, or if it's one of those kind of defenses, then you switch quarterback. Now, again, I have said I am not for benching the quarterback because I don't think this defense is elite. If the defense is elite, I'm not wasting an elite season of a defense. I don't care with the fact that most of the guys, except for Jones, are under contract for next year. I don't care about that. Again, you never know when you have an elite defense or when you don't have an elite defense until you have the elite defense. And if I've got an elite defense, again, a Baltimore Ravens 2000 defense, Albert Haynesworth 2008 defense, then I will bench the quarterback because Mason Rudolph can get me into the playoffs and maybe to the who knows stage with an elite defense. But if it's just a good defense, Mason Rudolph's not going to do anything more than win you 6 or 7 games. Again, an elite defense is Trent Dilfer carrying the Ravens and really being carried by the Ravens. That is an elite defense where it's like, Trent, we're going to need you to make a couple of throws. We're going to need you to convert on some first downs. We're going to need you to hand the ball to Jamal Lewis. And most importantly, we're going to need you to not screw the game up. But I don't think that's your defense. Granted, if Levis didn't screw the game up, you're probably 2-0. But these aren't Peyton Manning's Colts that you've played in week 1 or even week 2. So that's the discussion right now. That if I'm Brian Callahan, I am having amongst myself, maybe my GM, maybe Denard Wilson, like I'm having okay, boys, is this a legitimate top-end defense, or is this just a good defense that, gosh, if we had a Matthew Stafford, or if we had Dak Prescott, or if we had that kind of quarterback, we'd have some kind of a shot. Still probably run into Stroud or Burrow or Mahomes or Allen and lose, but it's not a, hey, Mason Rudolph can get us to the promised land kind of defense. Because at some point, if you do want to change the quarterback, you have to go to Amy. And you have to sit down with Amy and say, look, I cannot win with this young quarterback. I know you love him. I know you brought me in here to coach him up. I know I signed up for it. I know I thought I could. But now that I see how he reacts when the going gets tough, he's a panicker. His brain doesn't work. And I just need a quarterback that can do what I tell him to do. And I want to change the quarterback. Because his brain's not wired for this. If you have that discussion with her, she may veto it. And now, who knows how she's going to feel about you. Remember when she vetoed Mike Vrabel wanting to be the team's general manager and how that seemed to be a lingering issue even when Vrabel got fired. So if you don't think you have an elite defense, but you think you have a good defense, and you don't think that starting Mason Rudolph really matters that much, you don't have that conversation with her. So again, that takes me back to the question. How good is the defense? And I don't know the dynamics between Amy and Callahan and the dynamics between Amy and Levis, and I don't know any of that. But Brian Callahan has to look in the mirror and decide, am I ready to give up my first year as head coach to get my teeth kicked in with a quarterback who stinks and hopefully get the 4th pick next year? Or do I have a defense where I want to try to win as many games as possible and see what happens? And if that's the case, if you think that defense is that good, Levis is out after the next screw up. If you're like, you know what? We got our teeth kicked in Cincinnati in 2019 when I was offensive coordinator, and I'm okay with getting my teeth kicked in this year because I don't think they're that good, then I can live with that too. Then you suck it up and you deal with it. But that's the question. The question is, how good is the defense? If the defense is elite, then you put in Rudolph and you hope he can carry Collins you to a good season. If the defense is good, you stick with Levis, you suck it up, you get your teeth kicked in, and you try to pick Quinn Ewers. That's where we are. That's what it is. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025 here on the program. And I've noticed the YouTube chat with all the, our defense is elite, has brought that down now that I've talked about this, about the idea of, hey, How good is the defense? If the defense is elite, then let the defense roll with it. Again, I think they're a good defense. Elite's a stretch. 615-737-1025. Your phones on a Titans Monday at Stillman & Company. 1025-1063 The Game.
What did you say to Will on the fumble? I know you looked very upset on the sideline.
I think the camera caught it pretty clear, if I had to guess. So, yeah, I was upset. It was dumb. It was the same exact thing he did last week, and he cost us points in the red zone. And that is what it is. He's a grown up and he knows better. And so, I was really irritated that he cost us 3 points in a game that we probably needed it.
What was his answer to that question? What the F was he doing?
It's good. You'll have to ask him what the answer was. He didn't have an answer in the moment. I think he was just mad, but we tried to come back and rally. I mean, those things happen in football games, good things, bad things. I'll get mad at him. He'll get mad at me, whatever. It's the way it goes. But yeah, just was really kind of an inexcusable mistake.
That was Brian Callahan yesterday saying, it was an inexcusable mistake. And yet, no. If that hadn't happened, he said it today, by the way. He said, other than that, it was a good game. And I saw Mike Herndon, and I like Mike Herndon. He's a good man. I don't really agree with anything he says, but I think he's a good man. And Mike Herndon came out and said, other than that terrible play, it was a good game from Levis. No, it was not. He threw a hospital ball for Tony Pollard. He was short on the ball for Burks that Burks probably still should have caught, but he didn't. Levis was terrible. And you can't just erase the bad plays. That's why you're losing these games, is because of the bad plays. When it comes to Mahomes, it's not like, take away that amazing touchdown throw at the end of the game. And Mahomes had a very average game. Yeah, right. That's the problem. Again, here are your two choices. You give up on Levis today, and I don't mean like give up in your head mentally. I mean like you truly give up. And when you give up, he knows it. Like Carolina may say, we're not giving up on Bryce Young. They're giving up. Like they know it.
You think they're done with Bryce Young?
I don't think they have a choice.
Think they'll go for a new quarterback next draft? Do you think that's it, huh?
What the old man used to always say, once you make the move.
Man, could you imagine then Bryce Young's just going to be your backup? Or I guess you could trade him.
Could you imagine it if anybody else owned the team? I couldn't imagine it if anybody else owned the team. But this moron, yeah.
Sorry to get off on a tangent there, but
this is his MO. I mean, the reason the Panthers suck so bad is because of the owner, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you have to recognize that. So again, if you've got an elite defense, then, and I were calling the shots, I would make the move to Rudolph, and I would see if he can beat Kerry Collins. I don't think he can be, but I would see. But if not, I'm riding it out with Levis. And I think they have a good defense, not an elite defense. Also, they need to be able to learn how to punt, which would be nice as far as giving them that opportunity. 615-737-1025, and our phone lines are driven by Wilson County Hyundai. We have not really hit the text line today. One texter into the text line, Trent says, so that stupid thing of flinging the ball like that only showed up this year. How come he did not do that under Mike Vrabel last year? Will Levis did plenty of stupid stuff last year under Mike Vrabel, albeit it didn't look as stupid as the two things he's done here. But he did plenty of stupid stuff. I mean, last year, they played at Miami, and he threw a pick six to a dropping defensive tackle. Do you guys realize how hard that is to do? Like, how many defensive tackles score touchdowns? That would be like Tavondre Sweat intercepting a ball and running it into the end zone for a touchdown. And Levis, as he ran into the end zone, Levis lowered his shoulder and rammed into the guy while he was in the end zone. Only a moron would do that. But he did it. Last year against the JV Texans, he threw a ball into double coverage when Burks was wide open because he panicked and he couldn't wait to let the play develop. Granted, not as fugly as the decisions that he's made here, but bad. So there was a sign of bad decision-making and panicking under Vrabel. And what Tim Kelly did in the Tampa Bay game after he had done it in the Pittsburgh game and was starting to do it again in the Tampa Bay game was Tim Kelly just took that away from him and called bubble screens for Kyle Phillips. I mean, remember how Levis talked about the difference between the two coaching staffs and saying he felt more freedom with this coaching staff because that coaching staff said, we're not going to even give you the option to do some of this stupid stuff. Lenny says, Will Levis will be a star. Be patient. Indianapolis was patient with Peyton Manning. Guys, Peyton Manning's second year, they were 13-3, which means that in order for Will Levis to have the same season that Peyton Manning had his second year in the league, they could lose one more game the rest of the year. That's what you want me to be. You want me to think that the Titans are going to lose one more game the rest of the year. I think it is more likely that the Titans get another punt blocked before the end of the year than it is that they only lose one more game. And 3 punt blocks in a year is ridiculous and is embarrassing. Davis says if it is an elite defense, then they can make sure to get at least 3 turnovers on Will Levis. We will, or on Malik Willis, excuse me. We will have a discussion about Malik Willis here momentarily.
Malik will have to throw the ball.
I mean,
they just ran.
I watched that game. Indianapolis should fire Gus Bradley after that game.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, it was like they were shocked.
That they were just going to run the ball?
Yes. Like shocked. Like, I mean, Greg Olson's doing the game, and he's like, finally, they've brought 8 guys into the box. It's like they have one of the best running backs in the NFL. Malik, Indy should know at least enough about Malik to know what kind of game Malik has to play in order for them to win.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unbelievable. One texter says, the more I watch Will Levis play football, the more I see a Marine instead of a quarterback. Are Marines stupid? You know, I heard the old joke in the movie The Negotiator. It's a Samuel L. Jackson movie from when I was a kid. And if you heard the story about the Marine and the sailor,
I don't think so.
Restroom.
No.
So a Marine and a sailor go in, and Samuel L. Jackson's trying to convince this guy that he's a Marine. And he's like, a Marine and a sailor go to the restroom. And the Marine leaves the restroom without washing up. And the sailor turns to the Marine and he says, in the Navy, they teach us to wash our hands. The Marine turns to the sailor and says, in the Marines, they teach us not to piss on our hands. Ha, 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 ha. That's really all I know of the Marines. The few, the proud, the Marines. I thank the Marines for their service, because Lord knows you don't want me fighting on the battlefield, but I don't really know, like, is Levis a Marine? Is he not a Marine? You know, that kind of thing. Andrew says, I am so sick of Levis is a bum or he will be Peyton Manning. Y'all are too much. I would be thrilled to have Kirk Cousins or Matthew Stafford. Such crazy ends of the spectrum. Well, again, some people will argue that Matthew Stafford's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm not one of those guys, but I do think that Matthew Stafford, throughout the bulk of his career, has been better than, say, an average quarterback.
I would take Stafford, yeah.
Cousins or Stafford is really not equitable to me.
Give me Stafford, no Cousins, but I'll take Stafford.
Here's what I will say to all of that, though. The basic premise of, why are we talking about Peyton Manning? Why are we talking about Dan Marino? Why are we talking about Brett Favre? Because when you draft a young quarterback, you want a star. And if you're the Titans, you draft a young quarterback, you don't want to just draft another Ryan Tannehill. You want better than Ryan Tannehill. Because if you wanted Ryan Tannehill, you could have just re-signed Ryan Tannehill. So, again, I hear what you're saying about, that's not fair. TD was talking about that last week on the Power Hour when I was like, Dan Marino didn't play like that as a second-year player. And he's like, but Dan Marino's incredible. I'm like, that's the point. I can go get Ryan Tannehill. I can go get Derek Carr. I can go get Sam Darnold. There will be a guy this year that I can go get, which is why I never would have given Tua the contract, which is why, I'm a little torn when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. Like, I don't think Lawrence can win a Super Bowl, but I'm not sure you can just go get somebody better than Lawrence. But, I think you can go get, I think Tua's on par with these bridge quarterbacks. Just like Tampa Bay just went and got Baker Mayfield. You can go get that guy. But it's the C.J. Strouds we're talking about that you want. And you have to draft that guy. You can't just go get Joe Burrow. Doesn't work like that. So that's why we're talking star. And I would not be okay. 3 weeks ago, I would not be okay with the idea of, he's Ryan Tannehill. And he's not Ryan Tannehill, because Ryan Tannehill wins those first 2 games. But I'm still not okay with that being the end result. Sorry for having higher standards around here than some of you guys. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025 here on the program. So we have mentioned Malik. I want to get to that and your phones, which we will continue to do, and we will do that next. We'll go phones first. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
Titans get it back at the 25. Take the handoff. Levis. Deep shot on the way.
Contested ball, Traylon Burks. But the Jets come away with it. Brandon Eccles. A 50-50 shot, actually a 33% chance considering it was double coverage from the Jets. And Eccles somehow gets his body turned around for the pick.
And then fights Traylon Burks for the football and comes up with it. What a heck of a play. Eccles starting today for the injured DJ Reed.
Down by contact.
And Brian Callahan dials up a shot play early in this drive. I think he was trying to help his quarterback's confidence. After what had happened there, the chewing out on the sideline, trying to give him something, but I know he told him, make sure it's open before you throw it. And double coverage turns into another interception.
So that's turnovers on consecutive plays for Will Levis. Jets get it back.
I don't know who to be upset with, by the way, on that interception, because Kaharski this morning was just dogging Burks, and apparently some guy on Twitter was just dogging Burks, and then Derek was putting it on Levis today, and yesterday Callahan came out and said he wasn't disappointed with the ball placement, and then today Callahan said it wasn't Burks' fault, and so I don't even know whose fault it is. So you know what I do in times like that, Ian?
What's that?
I just blame them both.
Okay.
Levis sucks, Burke sucks, is what it is. Chuck is up next. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chuck, thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
How's it going today, guys?
Good.
Hey, I just want to say about, well, I know you just touched on it as far as the whole Traylon Burks thing, but to me, I was heard about how strong and all the stuff he's got in the offseason. That was his ball. He should have had that ball. The ball touched his hands first. And I know the quarterback's going to get a lot of grief on that because it was an interception, but you got to fight. You got to get those 50-50 balls.
So, again, everybody has their explanation for whose fault this is. Chuck, thank you. Everybody has their explanation for whose fault this is. And, well, I know whose fault I think it was. Ian, whose fault do you think it was?
Between Burks or Levis?
Yeah.
I lean more Burks.
I think Burks too. And I know, Derek, I didn't play wide receiver and you did, so you would know better than I do. But
Maybe
he had his hand under the ball.
I didn't hear what D-Mace was saying. Did he say it was underthrown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That the ball placement should have been out in front of him and that he should have come back and that he should have.
Yeah. I mean, it was maybe slightly underthrown, but it did feel like Burks could have caught that one.
Here we go.
Okay, what do we got?
Justin Graver, you know, the at Titans film room.
Yes.
I think he does a lot of work with those the old around the NFL guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like out in LA or whatever. He quote tweeted my quote about Simmons and the fact that Simmons has 0 sacks, 0 QB hits, and 1 tackle for loss through 2 games. And said that 2 of Landry's 3 sacks yesterday have come as a direct result of Simmons taking on 3 blockers to free up Landry. Yeah, I know.
Well, one for sure in the Chicago game.
Jadeveon Clowney's winrushstat.com rate, whatever, said that he was as good as the Bosa's. He's not. I am so tired. This is my biggest freaking gripe with Titanland, is I am so tired of people that look at, again, traditional stats and say, oh, no. No, sacks matter. When we talk about who's good, sacks matter. It's like everybody's crapping on Anthony Richardson today. I watched that game this morning, Green Bay versus Indianapolis, and Richardson's got stuff he's got to work on. His footwork's certainly not very good. But Anthony Richardson, I mean, he was fine. The game plan was terrible, and they didn't run the football. I think Jonathan Taylor had like 100-something yards on like 12 carries.
I think he had 3 picks though. Richardson.
Right. But the first one or the last one was one of those into the game, just chucking it to the end zone for a Hail Mary, and it got picked.
Okay.
But everybody just said 3 picks. It's like, okay. So I understand sometimes the traditional stats don't hold up, but I'm not going to sit there and argue that that doesn't count. I remember Tannehill threw a meaningless pick last year against Cincinnati. And my biggest gripe about the meaningful pick in the Cincinnati game was, or the meaningless pick was, when we look at his stats at the end of the year, we'll say it is what it is. Well, when it comes to Simmons, he doesn't get sacks. And I'm sick and tired of everybody in Titanland trying to justify why my team is paying $23.5 million to somebody who never actually makes a play. You know, making the play that allows the other guy to make the play is not making the play. Does everybody understand that? Making the play that allows the other guy to make the play is not you making the play. That's why Derrick Henry was Offensive Player of the Year, not the guys blocking for Derrick Henry being Player of the Year. It's ridiculous. Dylan and Antioch's up next here on the program. Dylan, thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Dylan.
Hey, Jared. Yeah, you got me all fired up about the Jeff Simmons thing. I mean, it's so weird. I can't think of any other player, any other franchise that gets propped up like this. I mean, they would have you think he's Aaron Donald out there. And I mean,
so true.
No one had to tell me Javon Curse was great. It was
Thank
obvious.
you.
Like, yeah, and the minute he gets the most little bit of criticism ever from freaking Titans radio of all places, he loses it. It's like, Jeff, you're not that guy. He needs to be better. And I think he just may be what he is at this point. So that's all I got, Jared. Thanks.
I think Simmons has the potential to be a very, very good player and has shown it at times. You know, a couple of years ago in that Bengal playoff game, he showed it. And you know what he did in that game? Ian, you know what he did in that Bengal playoff game?
Sacks.
He got sacks. Like, he got sacks and he hit the quarterback. So they got him a big old fat boy to put right next to him in order to eat up the blockers, literally, so that he could go get the quarterback, and he's got 0 quarterback hits. 1 tackle for loss. I'm sure you're going to tell me Ernest Jones had 3 tackles for loss yesterday. I'm sure you're going to tell me that that was all because of Simmons. And I'm sure you're going to tell me that the Dow Jones went up today because of Jeffrey Simmons. And I'm sure you're going to tell me that the burritos at Chipotle taste better because of Jeffrey Simmons. But again, where is it where Simmons actually does it? I'm sorry, enough. And he's right about how much they prop him up. And by the way, I have another bone to pick when it comes with Simmons today. And I almost tweeted this out, but you know how I feel about tweeting on like a Monday before a show, before a night. I want to save the good stuff for the show. Simmons, you know, the Titans stink right now, and everybody knows it. And they need to rally the troops, and everybody knows it. And Ian, for years, who was it that they would send out there when things were bad? They fired the GM, they changed the quarterback, they get their ass beat in London. Who would they send out there for the last 7 years until the middle of last year? The last 7 years to go put lipstick on a pig?
I'm not sure where you're going with this one.
Bayard. Time and time again.
Yeah, Bayard was a good spokesman.
It was Bayard. Remember when Bayard was the one that was sticking up for Tannehill? Remember when Bayard was the one who, after Mariota got benched, said, we still believe in him? And then when they changed the quarterback, said, we believe in Tannehill? Remember when Robinson got fired and it was Bayard that stood there and answered all the questions? Bayard has always been the team spokesperson. So now Bayard's gone. And all the Titans do is tell us how great of a leader Jeffrey Simmons is. That's all they do is tell us how great he is. They sent Chidobe Awuzie out there today. They sent Awuzie out there to lead the troops. And the reason why is because they know Simmons is all talk and no chalk. They know Simmons doesn't have that inside of him. What they tell you Simmons is and what Simmons actually is they're polar opposites. I shouldn't say polar opposites. Simmons is a good player. But he's not an elite player. He's not Chris Jones. He's not Aaron Donald. He's not that kind of player. He's not going to the Hall of Fame. He's not any of that. And he's not the team's biggest leader when you won't put him out there to sit there and be the one. Did he talk after the game yesterday? I didn't see it. I mean, the Titans got YouTube videos up. I mean, they got, I think it was McCreary talked yesterday after the game and Ridley talked yesterday. Did Simmons? I didn't see what Simmons said. But they're going to run a Woozier out there today. Go out there, Shinobi. Go tell them, let's get the fans all riled up. Let's tell them things are going well. Let's send out somebody nobody even really knows because they can't do it with Simmons. 615-737-1025. Somebody in the YouTube chat says Jared is going to have Big Jeff coming at him in camp next year. Might need to get advice from Buck. Trust me, Simmons already hates me. He's already made it abundantly clear he already hates me. I don't know when he started hating me. Honestly, I don't care. And I don't hate Simmons. I want him to play better. Like, I want him to go get sacks. Sacks. S-A-C-K. Not almost sacks. Not he helped that guy get a sack. Sacks. That's what I want. That's how I feel about hockey. Goals. That's what I want. 615-737-1025 here on the program. And we are going to officially kick off the name of the week. Ian, this week has a name on this program.
I like it.
And it's coming up next here on Stillman and Company. Let's talk FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. Great weekend of NFL footballs in the books, and you've got another chance to start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on tonight's game. And again, a lot of different options. I think it's a good game. We got the Eagles and the Falcons. All these games are coming down to one score anyways. And I hope it's the same way here. Just visit FanDuel.com/JGM to make every moment more with FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com/JGM. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 and over and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager, only $5 first deposit required. Bonus issue is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Potentially seeing Malik on Sunday. He obviously knows you guys. You know him. What are kind of the dynamics when that happens when you know each other so well?
I think there's probably a small advantage in him knowing enough about our people and our scheme and all those things. Obviously played against our defense for an entire training camp and off season. So there's some things that he probably knows that the average player coming to play wouldn't. So there's probably a small informational advantage there. He knows the personnel, which is always good for a quarterback to have some familiarity. But I'm truthfully, I'm proud of Malik. I'm happy for him that he found a way to go in there and win that game. That was really cool to see for him, and he's did a nice job for him. And we're going to have our work cut out for us. They ran the ball like crazy. They did a great job. Malik did a really nice job of taking care of the football and giving them a chance to win the football game. So excited for Malik, and hopefully that we play better than they do on Sunday.
So we have a name of this upcoming set of shows ahead of the Packers game on Sunday. Ian, you want to know what it's called?
Please enlighten us.
Malik Week. It is Malik Week. Lord, do not let Jordan Love play in this game. And I don't think Jordan Love's going to play. I think it's Malik against the Titans on Sunday. And I did watch the Colts and I did watch the Packers yesterday. This morning, I watched that game back. Didn't really do anything, although everything that they asked him to do, he did very well and did it better than he's ever done for the Titans, which I got to give him credit. Let me just say this about the excitement that I have about this upcoming week. Again, what we're dubbing Malik Week. If the Titans lose to Malik Willis, first of all, let's state the obvious here. The Titans are favored by 2 points. The Titans should win. In fact, I'm calling it now, Ian. If Malik plays, I guarantee the Tennessee Titans will beat the Green Bay Packers on Sunday. Indianapolis had the stupidest game plan I have ever seen. Ever. Like they had the 5 guys in the box and they couldn't tackle and the linebackers weren't coming down. And I mean, just again, they hand the ball to Josh Jacobs every play. Titans are not going to let that happen. Ernest Jones and Kenneth Murray, they're not going to let that happen. So the Titans should win on Sunday. And again, I'm guaranteeing it. They're not going to start 0-3 and lose to Malik. It's not going to happen. But if they do, all hell's going to break loose around here. And I can't say at this point, given the fact that I feel like the playoffs are gone and the hope for a meaningful season is gone, given the fact that the quarterback sucks so bad they didn't go get a real quarterback to back up, I can't say that the wheels completely falling off would not be something at least enjoyable for tire fire reasons. Again, I'm rooting for the Titans. I'm guaranteeing the Titans are going to win. I expect the Titans to win. But it wouldn't be the end of the world if they lost to Malik.
Quite interesting how this guarantee and the previous guarantee are both involving Malik Willis.
What was my that Malik was going to make the team?
Yep.
I mean, I thought Malik was going to make the team. And if they lose to Malik because they traded Malik for a 7th-round pick, which is basically, taking like Green Bay sent you a fart in the woods. All right, we'll do it. Make the deal. If that happens and Malik comes in here and wins, people are going to go crazy. Remember, I pushed back on the preseason expectations this year because the toxic positivity and the sunshine pumping was through the roof, and people got mad. I picked them to start 0-3 and picked them to win 7 games this year, and people got mad. I told you in practice against Seattle when the offensive performance was disgraceful that if it was a real game, you guys would say, Will Levis sucks. And people got mad. Oh, my God, did they get mad? Now, again, this has happened, and they now say Will Levis sucks. But I never, with all of my skepticism this season, even now, where I have guaranteed the Titans are going to win if Malik plays on Sunday, I have never envisioned that Malik Willis could come in here and beat the Titans. Never envisioned it in my life. And I am telling you right now, that if Malik wins the game on Sunday, something is going to happen. You think the owner is going to sit, this owner, you think she's going to sit idly by and just take it that her team basically cut Malik Willis, got a 7th round pick in exchange, and then he comes in here and beats them? Oh my God. Oh my God. And look, I'm not one of these Malik truthers. I think Malik is what he is. And again, I think they're going to win on Sunday. And I think the Colts should be ashamed of themselves that they didn't win. Again, I watched the game. They let they let Green Bay run the ball on every play. They should have been running the ball on every play with Jonathan Taylor, and they weren't doing it. I think Indy, again, I'm not going to say they should fire their coach, but it's bad. But if Malik Willis comes in here and beats the Titans on Sunday, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be one of those all hell breaking loose moments. It's going to be one of those rock bottom moments. It's going to be, as Caroline would say, T. Speaking of rock bottom, Vanderbilt's game on Saturday was that. The Commodore Hour's next. Stillman and Company. We'll see you all tomorrow at 2.